What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in Channel 99. This is a Conspiracy Theories podcast. We've got back with us Izzy, the photographer, family man, and then we've got Anthony. He is one of my longtime friends. Used to drive this dude to like football in high school back in the day.
The 240 NSX.
Yeah, dude, back in the day. But dude, we geeked on everything from Bigfoot to religion and giants. It just kind of, we went down the rabbit hole, man. We had Egypt in there, Sumerian stuff, government, dinosaurs, aliens, alien encounters. Dude, it was Jewish theories, flat Earth and dome theory.
We went deep.
We went so deep.
Yeah, and don't get offended by the Jewish theory. Disclaimer.
Yeah. It's a great episode, everybody. Make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, pass the episode along, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.
Shut up and sit down.
Element 115. You check into that?
Yeah, the metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of shit that the government isn't really exposing, period. Like, I'm an open-minded person, so, you know, I believe in a flat Earth theory, mainly because if you're going to keep Antarctica kind of bordered and no country is fucking...
Right.
You know, there's something beyond it, but I don't think it's just flat.
Mm-mm.
I don't think... People joke and like, oh, if you go off here and then gravity and yada yada. I think it's more expanded than that. And so I think, like, if you put a plate down, you put a little drop of like tomato juice, that's us. But there's all kinds of shit on this plate. So even if you thought you got to the edge of the earth, that's not the edge of the earth. There's that whole, like, we're in a petri dish. Could be, you know.
Absolutely.
Insane.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting to think about. I never thought about it like that. I'm more of like a Hollow Earth subscriber.
Now that would
see
be cool.
Admiral Byrd with his testimony. That's like an official Army debriefing where he talks about what he saw.
North and South Pole.
And what was it? Last presidential election? No, it was Obama's re-election. I think Joe Biden went down there. The Pope. The Dalai Lama, and
the head of the Church of England.
Yeah, they all went down there.
All went down
it's
there.
Like, why?
That was during the last election.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, right before Trump got elected.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit that we're not being told.
Nope.
And
do you think UFOs are intraterrestrial or extraterrestrial? Do you think they're from the outside of the petri dish, or do you think they're from like another world?
Wow. I've always thought that they are from. I would say that they're probably on the same petri dish, because we're under a dome, and that's what I like to believe.
Yeah.
If they can't get out of the dome, then they would have to master what's on the petri dish.
Sure.
And so I think they would come from other entities. I actually think, when you think about it, when you look into like space and you see like fucking Saturn or Jupiter, if you look at blood cells, you know, you see same kind of shit. You see cells, they're alive and they're out there, but they're moving, you know, like the universe. So what if we're inside of an entity ourselves? So when we look outside there, and it's just another cell.
I've thought about this. I've thought about how maybe we're a neutron and we're within an atom.
Right.
You know, or like within a molecule, right?
You see
and
those
like
pictures in space, it looks like nerves.
Yeah. How do we know that we're not within a single cell?
Well,
you know, like...
And another thing, like, we're going to cover this later on, but I had a near-death experience, and I passed over, and I saw the other side. One of the things, though, after I was pulled out of the darkness and I went into this light universe, I was actually a part of an entity, but I was, like, in, like, a part of a being. It was almost like I was able to see who I was a part of, and it was like a being, but light. And it wasn't like... It was like a little dinky molecule.
Yeah, a grain of sand.
Yeah. But all these other shit, all this energy and stuff was a part of this being. So when people say, oh, well, you're part of a, greater purpose? Yeah. I believe we're part of something, and we don't know it.
We can't comprehend it. That's the point.
Yeah.
You know, it's not meant for us to, I don't think.
Yeah, and if we are a part of this light being, what universe is he living in? And is there other light beings out there? And it's like,
and what are those beings who aren't even allowing themselves to be present to those people on that level of intellect, right? Like,
well, if they're interdimensional, you know, like if they exist outside of the third dimension, which they would have to exist outside of time, you know, and things like that. You know, if we can't we can barely comprehend our third dimension. You know, if we go into the fourth dimension or fifth dimension, which is where, you know, I think that there's other life out there. And going back to what Tim was asking about, thinking of UFOs or inter-outer, I think they're both.
Yeah.
I saw that Bob Lazar thing. I looked into the anti-gravitational technology that they got into, and they've had it for about 100 years now. And a scientist, I think, where was he, Oxford or Harvard? He took two magnets, $5,000 magnets, and had holes drilled through them, and he bolted them together with the repelling sides with him. Went up to the top of his roof, dropped a rock that was the same mass with this, and the magnets fell slower than the rock. So therefore he countered gravity. Do that fast enough, they have these scientists that have these personal crafts. You could look up on Google right now, a Russian scientist had anti-gravitational levitation technology. He was in a podium floating above trees. And I think UFOs are just broken down alien technology, you know, and we've took it and put our own touch on it. I think most that we see now are ourselves, but like even look at the Battle of LA. You remember that where they fired off like 1,900 rounds. They all hit, confirmed hits, and that thing just stayed up there.
Right. But you know, like, I mean, there's proof of aircraft even before electricity. You know, when you talk about 3,000 years ago, Egyptian times. And then
I believe we don't know what the hell the Egyptians were about.
Yeah.
I think they are capable of so much more.
Right. And
I don't think that they built the pyramids, though.
No way.
I think they just found them.
I believe, what was that guy who went to Florida and the Coral Castle?
Oh, yeah. He had like tuberculosis, and he like cured himself of tuberculosis.
Sure.
He built this coral castle, and like he claimed that he knew the ways of the pyramid, and he always had like a black box around him, and he only worked at night. And like two kids ran up on him late at night one time, and they said that he was standing there with like some cones or something in his hands, and he was just moving these blocks. And I'm going to assume that it's he's able to like generate like a certain sound wave, because aren't sound waves anti-gravity?
Yeah, frequencies. If you generate frequencies fast enough,
they
that's the idea of the magnets with the levitation. You spin the magnets fast enough, you create a vibration that counters gravity.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so then the friction of gravity doesn't take place, and you can hit sonic speed, you know, in the blink of an eye. And then the people themselves that are in the craft, laws of physics don't apply to them the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, but like what I was saying, like in South America for the Aztecs, like their god, you know, and he's like inside of a fucking rocket kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen that. The Aztecs or the Mayan space guy.
And we're talking about temples and pyramid bases. So in order for someone from Egypt to get on a boat and then go all across the fucking, you know, ocean all the way to South America and say, hey, look, I'm gonna teach you guys how to build bases of pyramids.
Right.
Forget that. We're talking pyramids in China.
Yep.
We're talking pyramids in Russia.
The biggest one,
You know?
I think, isn't it in Bosnia?
Yep.
It is ginormous.
There's ones in
and
Alaska
there's a
as
bunch
well.
of them. And
Sure,
China doesn't allow you to excavate.
Nope.
Correct.
So, and they have like
They
some of the
hide that.
most. Yeah, they hide it.
So
Yeah.
I mean, they had crafts back then, you know, that can go around. So imagine these gods, right? You know, they come from the sky, and you're like, oh shit, it's a god, right?
Yeah.
But they come from somewhere, and I think they originate from Atlantis, because there's a lot of history.
I was just gonna
with
say that.
Atlantis, but it goes back even further than
Right.
that. Back to Mars.
Yeah.
Because
You know?
all the pyramids popped up around the same time, and it coincidentally was around the time of the Great Flood and the disappearance of Atlantis.
So, you know, and if anybody does hardcore research on Atlantis, and they talk about the different civilizations, the different species that lived on that, and they weren't all friends. You know,
Don't they say Atlantis just like ripped out of the ground and just went up, right? Or did
I've
they
heard
say
that.
it sunk?
I've heard that.
Because I've heard
that
both of those,
Mhm.
right? But they claim to have found where Atlantis might have been in like the Sahara Desert, based
Yes, I've
on
heard
what is
that.
it, Plato's description
Uh-huh.
or something like that.
I've heard that.
And
There's
you
a
can
good
see,
reason for that,
and
too.
it makes sense. But I mean,
Well, see, you got to think about it.
How do
like-
they know?
You got to think about it like this. So, Earth has pole shifted so many times, over the millions of years it's been here, kind of thing, or pole shifted, whatever. If it's a sphere, whatever the case is, if it rotates, even whatever the water, right? So Egypt used to be full of water. The
Right.
Nile River used to flow all the way up to Giza.
Yeah, I mean, there's salt and like crustaceans on the sides of the pyramids,
so
showing
the
they were up to like 200
Sahara
feet in
Desert's
water.
not a natural
Yeah.
formation.
Mhm.
They think it's a result of some sort of nuclear weapon, and they
Because there's
asked-
like glass and shit around
right,
there, right?
and
Yeah.
so one of the Egyptian pharaohs had that green glass that was in his pennant, and the only time you can create green glass like that, meteorites don't make the green glass. It's the radiation that creates the green color. So out in New Mexico, when they did the nuclear test sites, it's the only other place they found that glass that's the exact same composition.
Whoa.
Right?
I
What
never
about
even
what
heard
about the
that.
ashes falling? Remember, there was a huge volcanic eruption during the times of the Moses era, kind of thing, and it was like up in Europe somewhere, and it,
They think Greenland.
okay, somewhere around there. So
Yeah.
it was huge, super volcanic eruption,
Hmm.
and all the gases. I mean, the clouds came all the way down to Africa,
Right.
and then it started hailing like fire, and
Yeah.
that's where like the Moses thing comes up,
Brimstone.
and
Mhm.
like, oh, his God is like
Yep.
torturing us, but really it was a huge ass volcano that erupted
Right.
on the northern part of the planet.
And they were able to track that just through like
Geography.
geography
Yeah.
and
Excavation.
timing and,
Mhm.
And,
That
and it
makes
makes
sense.
sense with that shit. Then there's locusts,
And
and,
they're-
then cattle was dying because
Oh,
gases
shit.
from the
Right, they've explained the
eruption.
plagues.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
have scientific explanation
No
for the
shit.
plagues.
I've
Mhm.
never even looked into that.
So then it's
That's
kind of
cool.
like, so wait a minute. So you mean to say God didn't do this just on purpose, or he's a scientist and he did this on purpose because he knows how fucking shit's gonna
Dude,
work?
Yeah.
weather patterns, man.
Yeah, there's stuff there that's like
We create weather. They
Mhm.
made it rain in Beijing during
We
the
have a
Olympics
cloud
just on
maker.
a small spot.
A
We have
couple.
a cloud maker down in Florida. Yeah, that was on National Geographic, I think, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, they just release a bunch of chemicals and basically it just freezes the air outside and then it creates cloud and then it just fucking rains.
then it rains,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
yeah, that's insane.
Yep.
And they need to put that kind of shit, where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But going back to the Egyptians, have you ever seen the hieroglyphs of the giants?
No.
And so there are hieroglyphs in the pyramids where they have their regular people depicted, and then they got giants where these regular people are coming up to their knees and they're carrying the stones, the Egyptian stones, on their shoulders. Or like they have their stick with the two blocks on each side. Nobody can explain that. And then the Smithsonian claims to have over 50 skeletons of giants that are over like 8 to 12 feet tall.
Well, there's reports that come in. Idaho is actually the #1 place where they have reports of mountain giants. And if you think of the Federal Reserves and like the places you cannot go, dude, what is it? Like something like 70% of everything on a map is flyover. Like man has never touched foot there or recorded it on foot. There's 70%. I mean, and President Eisenhower talks about, think about this. President Eisenhower talks about how he runs into a wild man in the mountains, a fucking Bigfoot, a giant fucking Bigfoot. He talks about it in his autobiography, and then during his administration, he creates all the federal land reserves.
Right?
And now you can't go into those places. Like, there's places you just cannot go.
Dude, I've seen 4 times ospreys
Like,
come
what's
over
out there?
Bogus Basin. You know, those planes that lift up and then turn their propellers and fly.
sure.
Yeah.
Seen them 4 times come over Bogus. Dude, what the hell is behind Bogus Basin that those planes are flying to? Because those usually carry VIPs, usually. And they came flying over Bogus Basin. I was like, what the hell? Where are you coming
Wow.
from?
Yeah.
You know? That's heading up towards Stanley, up into the Sawtooth, you know.
Probably like private landing strips in the middle of like when somebody buys a mountain or something, you know. But like that might be the case on that. But
Federal Reserve lands that way.
dude, but yeah, man, Idaho's kind of a dude. I heard a podcast about a guy who claimed to have been in the military, and they would go out and they would cull Bigfoots. They would like drop down like 6, 8 of them, and they had guns, and they would literally like go down, and if they were like terrorizing like the housing and like the small developments in these rural mountainous areas, then the military would just go in and they would just cull them. They would just go down and kill them, and they'd take them back and ship them off to like, you know, laboratory, a science research lab, or whatever the fuck it is. But I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Paracas skulls. You know, if you're familiar with the Paracas skulls, and like getting into Bigfoot stuff, I could geek on this all day. But I mean, I don't want to digress. Did you guys want to keep talking about the Egyptians and the giants? Because I kind of got off on a tangent.
Well, I had a question going back to, because you like the flat Earth theory, and one thing that holds me up a lot with that. Is so in a couple of my physics classes, there's a measurable force that's measured at minus 9.81 meters per second, and we call that gravity. And so what would your explanation of that force be?
Well, so a lot of people argue the center of gravity, for example, is like this.
Centrifugal force.
Yeah. So you have like let's see here. Well, what's their argument? The farther you go out, the less gravity is there, and you probably fly off. Okay, but see, if it's a petri dish, for example, and you're like this little tiny drop, well, what if gravity is the same? I mean, for a huge
and it's
area,
spinning like a disc to keep you in.
It's huge. So like, it's kind of like saying if United States was the petri dish, and you went to New York, right? Gravity probably would be less. But if you come into like, you know, the center of the United States, it'd be like,
right.
But what if it's not? What if
it's all theories,
bigger and huger? So it doesn't matter if you go to Antarctica. Gravity's still going to be the same. Why? Because we're still part of this little tiny dot on a huge dish.
Yep,
that makes sense.
It could.
See what I'm saying?
It's plausible.
But it's kind of like this too. The moon. Okay, the moon, and it's like,
you know, there's a period of history where there's not the moon. The Plato and those guys don't write about the moon,
and they talk about another sun, which could be Saturn, and it makes sense.
Wow.
The ancients talk about Saturn everywhere as the godson kind of thing. They didn't talk about this other sun.
Oh, man, and we need to get into Venus, by the way, so let's not forget about that.
Have you heard of when they shot a nuke at the moon? Or a missile at the moon?
Yes, and it made a ding or something like that?
It rang like a bell.
No, what they did was they let the thing drop back down, and it hit it, and they had a metronome, or not metronome, of whatever, like a earthquake thing, and it rang like a bell, like you're saying, though, for 24 hours or something like that, like a whole day. Probably even longer than that. But I think they said it was like a day. But I don't think they shot something at the moon. They just dropped it on the moon. Yeah, but either way, when it hit it, it was hollow.
Right.
Meaning it had been either mined out or it was an artificial craft.
Correct.
Right, so it's always keeping an eye on Earth. And there was this, I forget where I heard it from.
I don't even think we went to the moon, man. I've written papers on it in college.
Yeah.
We can talk about that too.
I believe it's all...
It's all bullshit, man. We just celebrated our 50th
right?
year. Didn't we hit the
bullshit.
moon 50 years ago this year? Like just a few weeks ago?
Did you see Louis Armstrong's interview where he was talking with a little girl and she said something about, how was it on the moon? And he goes, we didn't go there, silly girl.
He said that?
Yeah. And then he goes, I'm just kidding. And it's like,
No, they can joke about it. They're getting older now.
Yeah.
Shit.
But they can do that.
I think I don't think that it is just it's perfectly placed. You know what I'm saying? Like perfectly placed.
It doesn't rotate.
Right. And we're like the only planet like in our solar system that functions like that. The other planets supposedly out there, the moons, they rotate and shit like that, and they turn and stuff like that. What the hell are you talking about?
Ours doesn't have rotation.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's watching us.
You know what else pisses me off is when people. I'm going to get off on a small tangent right now. God, my microphone's like jiggling everywhere. But people are like, "Oh, did you see that photo of that planet, or do you see that photo of that moon, orbiting Saturn or whatever it is, right?" And I'm like, do you realize that that's not an actual photo? It literally captures ones and zeros, and somebody interprets that, and then they recreate it. We don't know if that's even real. It could be a fucking triangle, but they interpret it the way that they want it, and then they create a photograph based on the numerical data that they receive back. They don't have a fucking camera. They didn't have digital cameras in the 70s, right? They just had something that would capture the light density, and it was like basically a camera. It was basically just mirrors. It's a mirrored camera that sends back data instead of an actual photo, and then they have to interpret it.
One of my favorites
they write a
is
code for it.
Look up the picture of the Earth from the moon. Okay, look at that picture. Now remember that picture. It looks like the size of the moon, right? If you were to look at the moon from the Earth.
Yeah.
Think about the mass size of the Earth, or what it's supposed to be, from the moon.
Whoa.
And you're supposed to be looking at the Earth. Wouldn't that Earth be a lot bigger than that little crescent
I
that we
didn't
see?
even think about that.
Right?
They sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, they've only claimed to have taken one actual photograph of the Earth from space. The rest are composites. So they take thousands and thousands of photos, and they put them all together, millions of fucking photos, and they put it together, and they create a clean photograph because they put so many together. It's literally a collage, is
it's
what
like
it
a
is.
big jigsaw puzzle.
That's exactly what it is. And do we really know that's all we're told?
That's somebody's
right?
interpretation of what they think it should look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all trickery too. And like with Photoshop, you know, like you get a picture, that picture you're talking about, and just bring down the contrast, and you can see it's pasted on there. It's just another picture upon another picture.
And there's no stars in any of these damn pictures, and you're gonna tell me that that these guys. So another one is, who took the video of fucking Louis coming off the
spacecraft. I thought about that too.
They tried to answer that, and they said that
somebody else was down there first. No.
Yeah, that they got out and whatever, and then they
No
positioned
way.
it themselves. Oh, and then when they took off, that it panned up and then followed the craft as they were coming, or they're leaving the moon.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. Oh, we had a remote control and that kind of shit. Are you fucking joking? And like the satellite communication
in real time was able to follow you. Somebody was able to do that from Earth and follow that.
Yeah, like we can't even just FaceTiming. If I was going to FaceTime someone
There's
in Miami,
a delay.
Yeah. And they were like, "Does Richard Nixon like to thank you guys?" Oh yeah, thank you. Like, what are you fucking talking about?
Well,
and
they flew to the fucking moon on a 32 kilobyte calculator, basically, right? Isn't what basically you're like
the Russians were
the
like,
TI-32.
And then the amount of fuel that they supposedly had on the pod that they landed on the moon was able to give them enough thrust to get off the moon and head them back into Earth.
No way.
After it took those two big things,
giant
full of
rockets,
fuel to get them up in the air off of Earth.
Well, I mean, there's the gravity.
Yeah, you could argue that with the atmosphere and all that other friction, but still, man,
you still have to have enough thrust to get off the planet and to push you towards Earth.
Right.
Once you go free flown.
Have you heard that? Because there's no gravity, because there's no atmosphere in space, that there's no way those rockets would even do shit. Because there's no way that they could even push nothing.
Same thing.
Yeah,
I've always thought about that. How did they push off if there's nothing to push off from?
They say it's bogus. It's bogus. And then, like the Russians, right? They say they can't get past a certain part of our inner orbit or whatever, and that's where the whole theory of the dome comes around. It's like you can't get past it.
Have you heard of Operation Fishbowl?
It sounds familiar, but no.
Where World War II, they're making hydrogen bombs. They'd already made nuclear bombs, but they were down one of the islands off of South America. It was like 100 miles offshore. But they shot something like 60 or 70 nuclear bombs up into the atmosphere, and they exploded like we were inside of a dome. They bounced. They exploded off of.
They couldn't. They can't break through it.
Right.
And what's crazy is, and that's where like religion comes involved, and it's like in Genesis they talk about how there's what they call it. It's another name, the firmament, firmament or something like that. It's another word for dome. So pretty much you put a firmament over something and let
there's
it grow.
a theory,
like a
the yin and yang is just a depiction of the sun and the moon rotating around the flat Earth.
Yeah, see, but then it's like people like if you do research on Christian religion and everything else, it goes back to Egypt and Egypt religion. But
the sun god. We go past that. We can
that.
go to the Greeks and we can go to the pagans before them. It's if you've ever seen Zeitgeist, they explain that it's it's a sun god religion.
Right. But like, so if in Christian religion it says that God says that he flooded the earth or whatever, killed everybody off because they fucked up, right? So he's starting all over with Noah's family, but then he promises them this will never happen again, and he does so by creating a rainbow. Now, a rainbow is made because there's light being reflected from something. So we see a rainbow from here to here as an arch, but it could be reflected from the dome. So there's the sun hits the dome, and then the dome reflects the rainbow.
Sure.
Whoa.
We can go down the religion rabbit hole too if you want.
Dude, we can do anything, man. This is conspiracy theories, bro.
I think religion's a tool of control.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And if you look at what Christians believe, there is 400 different denominations of Christianity where Christians don't even agree on what Christians believe.
Yeah, everybody wants a piece of.
And nobody wants to be called, like, nobody wants to call other Christians because they all hate each other.
Right.
It's like, what?
No,
There's somebody did a poll in Rome. A Roman cardinal went through the streets and asked him who you pray to. Okay, and Catholicism claims monogamy or monotheism, right? And so, number 1 was Saint Mary, number 2 Saint Christopher, and Jesus was 6th. So if you're praying to 7, 8 different gods a day, first of all, you're polytheistic. You're not a monotheism, and God and Jesus aren't your focal point. So you're not even technically a variation of Christianity.
What's crazy is even though we all it's almost like this. You have to have an open mind to realize it's about control. But for people who don't have an open mind, it's part of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, are you serious? Like, you think God would go over to another land and try to kill everybody on it, or convert them to believe into something? No way. He'd be like, yo, you guys living good? Okay, no, you need help? No, okay, I'm gonna leave you guys fuck alone. But
and let's look at it, all the different times in the Bible, believe in me or you die. Why? And then all the times he commanded David or Solomon and all these people to go to war because these people don't believe in me. Dude, that's vanity. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a superior, intellect, or you're supposed to be this divine creature, you're supposed to be above that kind of stuff.
And on top of that,
exactly.
And on top of that, like, everybody bends their religion to work for themselves.
Correct.
So, I'm Korean, so I believe in the Korean Jesus.
Yeah, right,
Are you fucking serious? I'm Caucasian, and I believe in the white Jesus. Are you serious? Because that dude wouldn't be white. He'd be the only white guy in Middle East.
My favorite's Mormon Jesus, blonde hair, blue eyed, or light brown hair and green eyes, like
Aryan as fuck.
Yeah, right,
looking, dude.
And you're really gonna meet a guy named Paul in the Middle East?
Matthew or Mark?
No.
Yeah. Give me a break.
Manipulated, and you can't even tell because it's so ingrained into who you are. And they made it that way.
Well, you've heard of cognitive dissonance, right? Where you question the foundation of somebody's beliefs, and they react with anger. Where you...
Sure. It's like a low emotional intelligence, low EQ.
DNA gets people like that too. I was at a party.
Exactly.
And it was a cool party. What does? DNA.
So people finding out, like people down south finding out that they have African American blood in them, and they lose their shit.
No shit. Wow.
Or even just where it comes from. So like I was saying, I was at this party and this dude, like a Chicano kind of guy, like Hispanic, light skinned. So he's part Spaniard. So he comes from Europe.
Sure.
And he was saying that he's all Mexicano, which is Mexican. Okay? Right. Now, I know Mexicans from Mexico.
Right.
Okay? They have a certain DNA. You cannot... It's almost like saying you see an Asian and he says he's Canadian. No, like you're Asian.
Yeah.
See it.
A nationality is a little different than a race or an ethnicity.
Or like a Samoan saying he's, fucking Russian. It's not going to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this dude's like, yeah, I'm Mexicano. He's kicking it with this girl, right? He's all badass, having a drink. And I'm the only nerd in this fucking party. And I'm in the kitchen, I'm drinking. Like, dude, you're not Mexicano. And I'm sorry to tell you this. I had some drinks, right? So I had to tell him. And he's like, fuck you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I was like, no, I do. I was like, look, either you're saying you're Mexicano because one of your parents is Mexican. I go, so is your mom from Mexico or is your dad? And he goes, my mom. And I go, well, what about your dad? He's Spaniard. I go, well, that's what I'm talking about. Your skin is lighter than mine.
Right.
I go, I'm Native American.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not Mexicano. I'm sorry, dude. Or else you would be as dark as me. And he was just like, fuck. Like,
it's true. And
he
you
got
can tell
pissed,
in
though.
noses too.
Yeah,
Mexicanos got big wide noses, and Spaniards got the thin profile like me, like an Italian nose.
But you know,
big.
Yeah, very pronounced.
DNA is so important. Like it sure is. Ramses the second, I believe.
Yes.
He had a nose like yours. It was no African nose.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they're the bloodline from if they were aliens or not kind of thing. I mean,
well, it's plausible. It stands with the Christian theory of created in God's image. So, throughout human history, we explain things that we don't understand as gods. So like the Native Americans thought Spaniards or Vikings were gods because they had molten metal across their bodies and they tamed horses, right? And so they didn't know how to comprehend it, so they just said, oh, these guys are gods, we can't. And so what it's saying, take that and apply it to the Bible. They're seeing all this shit. What if it's people from Atlanteans and it's some primitive Amazonian tribe in the middle of the jungle, and all this technology is flourishing, but they're isolated. They wipe each other out with this nuclear war, and then those indigenous tribes become the new species of people, and they have to do all this rediscovery and everything like that.
Dude, I didn't even think about that.
And the god down there in the Aztec times,
kind of like
he
Black
was white.
Panther.
He was white.
Yeah.
And he had, he had a beard and shit like that.
And they all come from the sky, go to the sky, come from
Wait,
the
hold
sky.
on. You're talking about the Mayans?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they said that dude came out of the water, right? And he could speak their dialect fluently.
The Native Americans do too. The ones down in New Mexico, I forget which tribe they were, but that is in their culture that these beings come out of the water and they speak their language and teach them things and teach them how to take care of the earth, right?
How to farm and
but if you think about it, like
organize.
If you
govern.
created a species and created a language, you should be able to fucking know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
I've thought about that too.
It's very primitive to them. They could understand it, no problem.
And the symbol and language is the same kind of shit that you've got over in Egypt. You know what I mean? It's all symbols.
Very primitive.
Yeah, it's pictures. It's picture shit. And so, and like I said, Ramses, if he has a Caucasian nose from Europe, best bet that nigga was white.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why he's God.
Yeah.
He was different skin color. But there has to be the DNA here. Like what, you don't think that Ramses mixed with some Egyptian females that were straight up not white?
Right.
So the bloodline's mixed. And same thing for Southern America, stuff like that.
So do you guys not believe in evolution?
I do.
Yeah.
You do?
Absolutely. Why can't there be with the way nature works, why can't there be intellectual influence and then evolution just kind of takes over? Because naturally, smart creatures, any animal or human's going to adapt to survive, which is technically evolution. Right? You're adapting, changing to your environment, things like that.
Do you believe that maybe, okay, so if we go back to creation and say the Atlanteans, for example, say they're scientists. And they're going to say, well, look, we have chimpanzees, and then we have, like, say, the caveman. Okay, we want to make a better breed or whatever. Do you think they had anything to do with evolution? Because,
so I think so you've heard the Sumerian story, right? So they first, organized society, written language with cuneiform, all that stuff. Their theory on the creation of man is, so their gods, Enki and Enlil, they were brothers, and later they claim is translated to Jesus and the devil. But they claimed, the Sumerians said, we were created to mine gold.
Right.
That was our sole purpose. And if you look at the story of the Sumerians and apply it to the Christianity theory of creation,
the 12th planet you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's where they come from, and so they wanted gold to repair their atmosphere, blah blah blah. If you look at that and compare it to Christianity, the similarities are they're just, and it explains a lot. The virgin birth could have been artificial insemination.
That's what I've argued, man. Science, bro. You can't explain a virgin getting pregnant.
And then you're created in God's image. If some of that superior DNA or the superior race's DNA was put into that petri dish with Virgin Mary to create these intellectual, beings.
Well, even
that's what I've thought about.
The Bible mentions about how
the sons of God came down and
see, so we're talking about extraterrestrials taking human females,
and you can even trace
DNA.
I think in most Asian DNA you can trace a blonde-haired, blue-eyed gene around that same period. It's very interesting.
Like evolution, like I don't think that I think we were fucked with,
Mhm.
but for the purpose of advancement.
You know, they
And,
found a block
you
on
know.
our DNA.
Hmm?
They found a block on our DNA. So we use like 12% of our DNA coding. And they found this block that kind of short circuits things. And they think that gives plausibility to living past 100 years, grown past, you know, the average of 6 feet tall, you know, things like that. And so when they say that you have, like in the Bible or whatever, it says you have the ability to become God, or you have God within you, or whatever.
That's what Hitler was trying to do, though. He was
Yes,
trying
he
to.
was.
Yeah, he was into like DNA, trying to figure out how to like unlock the code
He was
to
very
like make
into
us a
UFOs
super.
too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
to make a superhuman like soldier.
Well, that's why he experimented with meth. They thought it was a super chemical that made them
Yeah.
superhumans, you know,
Yeah.
super warriors.
They played a lot with like steroids. They did
Steroids
a
and
lot
meth.
of steroids and meth, man.
Do you think vaccination comes into play to put that block in our DNA? What do you think about that?
I don't like vaccination for the most part, but I think that block was put there well before we had the technology for vaccination.
Yeah, I don't think unless we'd been vaccinated the same way for hundreds, if not thousands of years, I would say that I don't think vaccines would really completely block
Because
off
they're
a
doing
DNA.
something now.
Mm-hmm.
Now
They
they're doing
probably
shit.
are.
And you know that I think that sucks. Like my kids are on the spectrum, and my two older ones. Okay, I got 3 of them, but my 2 older little ones, 4 and 3 now. They went in for their first vax, and then the second vax. That's when shit changed. It was like a 4-month vax.
Which
and that
one
like
was it?
trends, I think, doesn't it? Don't they usually say it's like the second round of vaccinations that really kind of
I don't
people start
know.
noticing?
But that's when I noticed it, because my 4-year-old, right, when she came up to her 4-month and they vaxxed her, she was saying dada, mama, baba.
Yeah.
And when they vaxxed her, it was almost like she wasn't even there in her
Yeah.
eyes anymore. And I was fucking afraid all month, 30 days or more. And I was going to take her into the hospital because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with my kid? Like, she wasn't happy. She wasn't smiling.
I've
she
heard
wasn't
that.
alive. It was just, she was just like, you know, and I'm like, fuck. And so it was almost like hitting a reset button.
Yep.
Okay, so now she ends up walking around 1 year old or crawling around 1 year old. She was like slow as shit. And then, so I had my second child. Same thing, you know, you got to get your kid vaxxed, whatever, you know, it's healthy, whatever. So first vax. And then 4 months comes around, mama, dada, baba, nothing.
Jesus.
Again.
Yeah.
And I was like, how in the hell is this, like, I was pissed. I was real pissed. And,
You feel betrayed.
yeah. Yeah, totally. And so fucking, I had my third kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't really want to. No, there's nothing wrong with vaccinations. And I did my research and like, yeah, that guy who stated that it does harm and
Yeah,
yada, yada
they
was
took his
proved
medical
wrong and
license.
shit.
Of course they did.
Right, they threatened his family.
Of course they did.
They did all kinds of shit to make him say, okay, I was just
Yeah.
exaggerating.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyways, so fucking, I give him his first round. I think it was like his first one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I said, no way.
Yeah.
Right? And I denied it. And I had to even argue with a doctor. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I was like, just the thought of this one shot having aluminum falsite. If I put that on a little fucking spoon, just a little bit, will you swallow it for me and tell me it's fine? Or how about like the formaldehyde that you put in?
Yeah,
and
right.
shit? And he was just like, there's nothing wrong with vaccinations. They proved it. He's like, my son is even autistic and he's like 21 and I've taken care of him, yada yada. And I was like, and you don't think any of this has anything to do with no? Well,
No
I've had 2
correlation,
kids
huh?
who've gone through this shit.
Yeah.
So I chose not to. So my little one is not like his brother and sister.
Interesting.
And he's active. He was able to see, react to his name. He can know when you're there. I mean, my kids were like, you could walk right in front of them, and they were just like,
Just nothing.
yeah. You know,
Yeah.
you could like go, hey, 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 and they're just. But my little one, you're like, hey. You know,
Right.
he was so active, and so
Yeah.
totally different, but still he does show signs of being on the spectrum. And maybe it's a DNA thing. Maybe it was
I don't think so.
Native American with the mother's DNA.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Because I have an older son. He's
Mhm.
19.
Mhm.
He has Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked up his shot record, and I put it to my other son's, Esteban. He doesn't show any signs of being on the spectrum. He's 14.
Mm-hmm.
And if you compare them, my son with Asperger's had more shots than my 14-year-old by the time he was 3 years old.
Damn.
Lots of shots.
Yeah.
Lots of shots. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know,
our parents had 12. We had close to 25. I think 10 years after us are on 86, and they just proposed 293 to legislation.
No way.
Yep.
For shots?
Yep, for vaccinations.
What?
And you cannot sit
What?
here and tell me you're going to introduce some of the most complex diseases and strains into an infantile immune system and there's not going to be any adverse effects.
right.
Whoa.
It's
You know what I'm saying?
odd
We
to me.
could handle that as adults because our immune system's more developed. So sure, they're safe for us, but with a baby,
Yeah.
different story. That immune system's underdeveloped. It doesn't have the antibodies, anything. It doesn't have experience for it.
But you know, I've had friends who have kids that were like born around the same age as mine. And they're like, well, nothing's wrong with my kids, and so I'm like, well, maybe that's where DNA comes into play too.
It
Because
could.
I haven't done any research with Native American DNA, with African American DNA.
Sure.
Okay, so I don't even know if there's studies that exist.
But you
with
would
that.
think because they're from different parts of the world, you'd be fine.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I and it's crazy. Like when we're talking about science and DNA, I chose my kids' mother because of her DNA.
Right. Sure.
Before we even like started talking, I was like, well, I kind of like her structure and shit like that. And she had like kind of like an elongated skull, and I really dig that. And so I was kind of like, okay, I really want to mix my DNA with yours. Not telling her that, but it was like, yo, let's hook up, girl. If we happen to have a kid, it happens.
Yeah.
But my kids don't have to worry about becoming overweight.
Mhm.
Like her metabolism is fucking
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
athletic. She doesn't have to go to the gym, and she's fucking looked like fucking a tennis player.
Sure.
So my kids, I've struggled with my weight forever, and I was like, I gotta get with a girl with a high metabolism, and they look fantastic. They're like stalking, and
Right.
fucking. So DNA it's really important. So I don't know, certain DNA could maybe, hey, you eat too much junk food, you're gonna develop cancer.
I doubt it, man, because our
Oh.
parents and stuff, the older generations ate, plenty of junk food, and
Yeah.
they're okay.
Yeah.
They want to say it's a broadening of diagnosis. I don't buy that either. You mean to tell me, so in 1901, it was 1 in 80,000 were on the autistic spectrum. 1930, it was 1 in 50,000. 1940, it was 1 in 40,000. We get up to now, it is 1 in 5.
No way.
1 in 5 is on the autistic spectrum.
So, oh man. So it's not a broadening.
I'm not buying it. You mean to tell me, so since 1900, our population, the world population has gone from some like 4 or 5 billion to 7.8, almost 8 billion people.
Yeah.
So with how that ratio works, with the amount of people we've expanded, you would think that ratio would expand, be like 1 in like 100,000, or something like that, because of our medicine, supposedly our medicine's top notch.
Right.
But why is the ratio shrinking? We get more people, but the ratio shrinks. It doesn't make sense.
No, that makes sense.
I think
you make sense.
Right.
That
Yeah.
does not make sense.
I think
Right.
there's a
at all.
study, has to be a study, which says, kind of like how they push soft drinks to certain races, right? Like Sprite with more
Well,
African American, right?
Red color is more towards Mexico.
Right. So I think there is some kind of research that is done with DNA to say, well, if I give this certain type of foods towards Asians,
Oh, absolutely.
they're going to react a certain way.
Of course.
Well, I work in this technically, and it's all based on analytical research. So like sales data, because you can pull the demographic on the sodas and the drinks that they like, and then you can kind of aggregate those and say, all right, well, they're, this demographic, they identify as, their ethnicity is Latin, so they're like Latin Americans who live in Southern California, and they drink only dark drinks, but the majority of those dark drinks are going to be cherry or strawberry or
right.
red flavored, right? And then you can definitely narrow it down. But I do believe that culturally, throughout a process of time, it eventually will be coded into your DNA to gravitate towards certain things. Yeah, I think that's possible. 2, even 3 generations down, because that's literally like, I mean, I do shit that my dad does, and I would have never thought that that's something that I would do, but my grandfather would also do it, and it's just unique characteristics between, you know, the family line. And those are things that are ingrained in my DNA, the way I look, or, you know, my,
it's documented in nature.
Yeah.
It goes down. They've documented 10 generations. So, like, if a fox were to see somebody get eaten by, you know, a mountain lion,
it would know to get the fuck out.
That fear travels down through 10 generations, and even in 10 generations, they haven't seen a mountain lion, but then they come across one, they smell it, they know to run.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah. And you know, like, I've known 2 girls that were sisters. One developed cancer and one didn't, right? And it's kind of like you possess that cancer mechanism that could be triggered. So don't eat whatever your sister did. You know, don't do whatever your sister did, because it works with people who are sick. If you know somebody who has fucking ulcers, right, and then they have kids, it's like, dude, don't eat too much spicy shit, because guess what happened? You carry the same DNA as your dad, and he's dealing with ulcers, and he's got pain medication, and he's all, you know what I'm saying? And that medication's fucking him up.
I have a challenge for you.
You know?
So I used to work with this guy who had ulcers for 15 years, right? Met this Hispanic guy that owned a jalapeno cart. Okay, long story short, this guy told him to eat 8 jalapenos a day, and the guy goes, "You are out of your damn mind." You know, that is the exact opposite. And he goes, "How many digestive issues do you see in Mexican people?" And it's non-existent. They don't have digestive disease, colon disease, or anything like that. And so after 15 years, he started doing that. He got off all of his medicines, hasn't had an ulcer since.
What did he do?
I believe
8 jalapenos. 8 jalapenos whole every day.
Whoa.
Right, which is the opposite of what our medicine tells you to do.
I would think, because, like, even for me, like, eating jalapenos just makes me feel awful. Almost.
Well, if the medicine's messing them up, might as well try it.
Yeah.
Now CBD, that helps me.
Okay.
And, well, culturally, you do see genetically they are predisposed, or is that right? Predisposed to certain types of diseases. Like Native Americans have diabetes. Like,
right.
It's just
It's in their pancreas. Their pancreas is not as highly functional as other races, I guess.
So you would say
genetically.
So saying like that with your DNA, it would be like, you should stay away from this kind of shit.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But if you don't, then I know it's going to happen to them, and they're going to develop some kind of cancer or something.
Each person's blood has its own pH. So you have a different acidity for your blood type. And so there's a book I'm reading right now that different blood types handle different foods better. You know, like I'm A positive, so I should technically be eating more of a vegetable-based diet. And there's a lot of research into that.
See, we actually do come with instruction manuals. It's just, do people want to listen to that shit?
They don't. Nobody listens to
I
their
would have
bodies,
never thought about that, dude. That's crazy.
And so
your
better.
blood type, it depends. Like, your body's going to be able to metabolize things and utilize nutrients better if you match it with a certain acidity. Whoa.
Yeah. And
like a diet.
One of my sons totally looks like his mother, and she deals with stomach issues, and she won't give up, you know, certain ways that she's eating. She's gone through 2 surgeries and shit.
Jeez.
And I told him, like, dude, you're going to go down the same route as her, because you take after her, man. So, like, there's an instruction manual right there, fucking right in front of your eyes.
Right.
So, I don't know. I mean, I think if the government really cared about its people and really wanted them to succeed, it's like, dude, look, you know, according to your blood and then according to your DNA, you should stick to this.
No, we have the ability to, but, you know, I think it goes to where the Georgia Guidestones came from. Have you ever heard of those? I don't think they have our best interest in mind, because our population is not sustainable. Well, you know, by our current methods of running things, you know, as far as food, as far as supplies, you know, waste management.
Think so, though?
We could if we got the corruption out of the way, you know. We definitely have the ability to, but
1% of the American workforce grows like 110% of the food or some shit like that, and we export tons of it.
And look at what's happening to our food, though. Our food is becoming less and less nutritious because we're mass producing it, and then we're ruining the soil too, because we're not rotating the way we should. they did. So I wasn't into the gluten-free, thing for the longest time. But if you think about it, what they've done with genetic modification to create more of a crop,
to be resistant to certain diseases,
right.
And
so they've changed the DNA strand
bugs.
of the plant. So if your body has a biorecognition where it recognizes what a food is and how to metabolize and get rid of it, it's taken in this new strain of wheat DNA
it doesn't
that
even
it's
know
never
what it is.
seen, and it doesn't know what the hell to do with it. And so it'll react like any other sort of product, and it'll just kind of kick it off to the side, and you'll store it in your stomach or wherever.
Which is where like the whole gluten insensitivity fad thing came from.
Right. I think they should be worried about meat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like red meats and shit.
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking joking? like
all
like
the hormones and stuff pumped in them. Girls, girls are going through their menstruation in 2nd and 3rd grade now. It's ridiculous.
What?
Yeah, because of all the shit that's in the milk and the meat. I think.
Dude.
Well, and I mean, yeah, if you do research on certain foods and stuff, I mean, a long time ago, I was telling my son, dude, you actually think like a human fucking said, let's drink milk, like sucked on a fucking cow's tit? No way, you know what I'm saying? Like,
arguably, in the past, I heard this is the only argument for milk that I've heard that I really like, and it's in the past when we didn't have access to purified water, the people who were able to digest lactose had access to purified water, because once it goes through the cow, it takes all the toxins out and stuff. So the people that could drink the milk were able to survive longer because they were getting the nutrients and the extra water, the clean source of water.
Sure.
And that's why
Makes
it's progressed to where we can drink it now. But nowhere else in nature, like you're saying, you drink milk past infancy.
Like, yeah, word up. But, if you're in drastic measures and fucking, hey, look, my baby needs something to drink and I don't got no milk, hey, or I don't got no water, there's a fucking cow or a goat, right? Okay, I can see that, but yeah, the milk has so much mutation shit in it that makes dudes have breasts. You know what I'm saying? And it's true. If you drink milk right now and stop for 30 days, you're going to see a difference in your chest.
Well, it's very interesting.
Or your body in general.
Right.
'Cause mucus, it does a lot of it fucks up your guts,
your sinuses, everything.
Your sinuses. Yeah, that's why once I quit drinking milk, like I could breathe better again. Like I was less mucusy when I was like running. Just because like after I eat and after I'm done running for some, I mean, it like helps kind of clear out like any congestion. Yeah. But I don't ever have any of that anymore.
Right.
So, and the only thing I can attribute it to is less dairy in my diet. But I mean, those are just common, like that's just common knowledge with dairy, right?
Well, it's interesting that Jeffrey Epstein stuff's going on right now, and you look at the sexualization of young women, and even how they're doing it, like with this Epstein case right now, they don't call them young girls or kids; they call them underage women. Why are you calling them? They're like, it's not their fault. They're attracted to underage women. No,
they're attracted to children.
Yeah, it's that simple. So, and if they're in control, if you look at the big picture, they're in control and they're putting all these hormones in the stuff to make the younger girls mature faster. It's all a sexualization of our society.
Whoa.
Yeah, there always is the underlying. There's a reason for shit.
The most per capita incidences of child disappearances are Washington, D.C.
I heard.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of African Americans go. They find them with the organs out. And
yeah,
shit like
that organ harvesting. Yep. And in Syria, when we did our recent thing in Syria, there were thousands of corpses that were surgically extracted from organs and things like that in Syria after the gas bombing. After Assad did it. I don't think Assad did it.
You don't think Assad did it?
Assad was loved by his people. Same thing with Gaddafi in Libya. He created free energy. And free water. He created access. He found a spring that was in the middle of the Sahara Desert and dug a trench that provided all of his people with free water. And they just...
Who is this?
Gaddafi was the leader of Libya, and it's that shit with Clinton that went down to where 13 hours, whatever, where she didn't... 0 dark 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of Americans are coming to... where they're opening their eyes and seeing.
Well, the Freedom of Information Act helped with that.
Well, sure.
Well, kind of.
But
they black out 90%
so much
of those.
But it's just like that little tidbit. Everybody's like, wait a second.
Well,
these are like official.
Which is why I don't understand why they. Well, I understand why they block them out, like black certain things out. But I mean, when you look at a lot of the stuff, I printed off a lot of the alien stuff, and I was meaning to hang it in here, but I kind of just covered it up with like other art. But like, I don't know. the Freedom of Information Act, yeah, it's cool, but you really only get titles and conclusions.
You really do.
You really do, and it's unfortunate because we're still blinded.
What sucks is that we're always looking for information, and unfortunately, we don't know if that information is authentic,
right?
Or it's just from somebody else in their basement who's just coming up with shit and making a new religion.
And that's what they do. When there's a whistleblower, they'll sit out there and put 5 or 6 different stories that are similar but have different endings to them, just to throw everybody off. Yeah. And that's what they did to this guy that wrote this book, Bill Cooper. He was a whistleblower back in the 80s, and he worked with communications in the military. And there are ordinances in the military where they set different codes where they do not respond to orders from the president.
Wow. No doubt.
Well, the president, everybody knows. I think everybody knows.
He's only
right
there
now.
for 4 years.
He's just a puppet.
He's only there for 4 years anyways, right?
Arguably, we've slipped into a monarchy with George Bush Sr. So if you look at how the 3 branches have all shifted, the power is all in the executive branch now, which in all technicality, that's a monarchy.
Yeah.
And they claim that George Bush Sr. was our first monarch, and it makes sense because nothing changes.
I know if the American people actually woke up and said, this is not run by us. This is run by something else. And a whole state can vote for one candidate, and then one electoral vote, that dude says no, and then so all those hundreds of thousands of votes.
The senators don't even have to put the electoral vote towards what the popular vote is. They use it as a suggestion.
Right. It is, yeah.
So I mean, it's
because they turn all the time on them.
It's fucked up.
Did you see one of our senators here? No, it wasn't a senator. It was one of our mayors or congressmen. I don't remember, but he said, the public doesn't know what they want, so we'll make the decisions for them.
I heard that. I heard that on the radio, actually.
Yep. And they just stay in office. Nothing gets done.
I think if people
people don't even pay attention to local politics.
That treasurer last week or 2 weeks ago just got busted for embezzling for 3 years, misuse of taxpayer funds, and she got probation.
How much was it, like 50 grand or something?
Something like that.
Yeah, I read that too. Which is crazy.
Me or you would go to jail for a decade.
Oh, easy. Yeah, totally.
Some shit, man.
Yep.
But I think that even since the early 80s, it's been talked that a civil war is bound to erupt in the United States.
We're more polarized than we were in the first Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this whole area,
but we're also more civilized. Yeah.
Like the storm, the Area 51.
I was gonna ask you guys what you thought about that.
It could have been made by this guy. This kid, right, who took it as a joke, but it could be a perfect cover-up for the government
military just to cull a bunch of retards.
Distract them, right? Someone was saying distract them from all these, charges of this young women being
how
whatever.
Convenient.
Oh, that's so true. Well, and all that shit's disappeared online, dude. Everything about Epstein's disappeared. You have to mine for it.
You have to mine for it. But or it could, because like this, if I make a fucking event right now and I say like storm the Capitol of Boise, right, the fucking building, and law enforcement gets in touch with me, they could say, hey, go ahead and delete that. I could delete it. But FBI somehow has a problem, Air Force has a problem, U.S. military has a problem, but they don't tell him to push one little link that says delete
or have
event.
Facebook just cancel it, It's
there for a reason. Now, what if they're like, it's just a fucking joke. Oh, and you know what? We could probably use this because they want to do a stage of fake alien attack so that way they can get people into these FEMA camps too. And that's been talked since before Obama.
Yep.
And when Obama came on the scene, it was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. A whistleblower is like, they're going to have these flying aircraft in the sky and it's gonna look like aliens, and we're already prepping them with Independence Day and all this shit, and we'll take care of you. Electricity will go out, you have no food, you have no electricity, the military comes in, FEMA camps are set up, let's get you over to the FEMA camps. And it's just bullshit, and it's the United States government
and there's locked in. Whoa.
So what if the storm in Area 51, it's cool, and people go there and they're like, either it's gonna become a festival or we're really going to do some shit. There's like 1 million people. What if 1 million people happen to get out there, right, with 2-lane roads and everyone's booked and it looks like a fucking refugee place out there? But what if they do say, you know what, let's fucking do this?
They'll murk them.
right? Right.
You
And
think so?
Oh, yeah.
I think
now
they would too.
they have to prove a point to the world too. So
Yeah.
like if it was even people that were foreign come on here, we have to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how's the United States going to look to the other parts of
Yeah.
the world? They just slaughtered 100,000, maybe more people because they wanted secrets released.
They
in
wanted the
United
That
truth.
States.
their tax
Right.
money pays for?
Right.
Right. So now
Yeah.
this could spark all kinds of shit. This could spark
What are they?
civil war.
Yeah.
There could be people over here, policemen, officer, military people are saying, fuck this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my government, I'm turning my back on them. And then, oh shit, everything breaks loose. Government gets pissed. Government
Chaos.
says, well, we're going to have more false flag attacks. And then the people are like, that's bullshit. I mean, this could start a whole mess, or they can use it and they can actually bring out these spacecrafts. And then people are like, oh my God, look at that.
Yeah, find
And
a
then-
common enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Crazy, dude.
But-
when is that supposed to go down?
September
We're gonna-
20th.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a while.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be exciting leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see
Oh.
if it gets pulled down. It'll probably exceed.
But shit, I mean, ISIS
know.
and Al Qaeda have Twitter accounts, and they have for a couple decades, so
I know. That blows my mind.
that never get blocked.
They never get blocked,
No.
and they have their own Twitter accounts, but they'll block Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
it's gotta be part of some plan.
Oh, it
Everything is. There's all kinds of. It's like a big ass book. with
Have you
different
heard
chapters.
Have you heard of the black nobility?
Mm-mm.
So they're a family line in Europe that claims direct lineage from Jesus,
All right.
and they claim it's their divine right to rule the earth.
Mm.
And so it's them, the Rothschilds, and the Vatican are all kind of fighting it out right now for control.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so, and all of them agree that we need population control. And so I think that's the systemic breakdown. That's why you see all these stupid white line clouds in the sky. All of our shit, all of our food's poisonous. It doesn't have the nutrients that it used to. They
Right.
said an apple back in 1960 is worth 5 apples now as far as the nutrients go.
Yeah, it's insane. And
You know?
Well, none of our apples here in the U.S. are native. There was like only crab apples here.
Right.
And every apple, now we have like thousands of apples.
Mhm.
And people don't realize when they eat an apple, they're eating a genetically modified, like,
Correct.
plant. Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm GMO free, and I'm like, all right, well you're eating an apple, and
Same
that
with
is
broccoli.
GMO.
yeah, broccoli is
Uh-huh.
genetically engineered and fucking.
From the
you can't
Romans.
grow a broccoli.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, and a cauliflower.
Uh-huh.
Like that shit
And
would
asparagus, they all come from the
suck out
same
your
plant
energy,
that the Romans figured out how to manipulate. And,
No way.
uh-huh.
So they took one plant and just created 3 plants out of
Yep,
it.
they manipulated different parts and it grew these different plants. And I don't understand,
It's probably
horticulture and
they,
all that stuff.
yeah. They
but-
probably just planted them around other plants that had similar things, and then they just cross pollinated, and
Right.
they just like years,
On
lots
top-
of
right.
fucking,
Yeah,
lots of
it's-
seasons, man.
It's tough. I've sat down, and after my kids had been diagnosed, you know, I was like, we're gonna change the way we eat, right?
Mhm.
Dude, no, there's no fucking way. Even when you think it's a banana, dude, that banana's been genetically altered
Yep.
too. And
Yeah.
you could say, okay, well, I'm gonna fucking.
They're sprayed yellow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
They
for.
are sprayed yellow.
Yeah, so if you go to the
like
market,
apples with wax on them.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the stem and the stem's green and the rest of the banana's yellow, they sprayed it to make it look good.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Mhm.
Like with a chemical that turns it yellow.
Mhm.
It's not like a paint,
And-
but like it literally they just spray it and it like basically ripens it real quick.
Yep.
Whoa!
Real bananas have like a bunch of seeds in them, right? Like they're like huge and totally unattractive.
See, I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure
I
I've seen
thought they
that
were really
before.
small.
I'm sure there's a lot. Those are plantains, I think.
Okay.
Like, but they've got there's a lot of different types of bananas. I know
Mhm.
that. And some are less starchy, some are more starchy, some are sweet. You know, the bananas we get, they're
They're
like they're sweet bananas.
Yeah.
They're less starchy.
But like if you try to go into a store and you're like, I'm gonna fucking avoid processed foods and I'm gonna avoid
you
say
can't.
meat. No way.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
even
nothing.
eating organic is, dude, it's expensive. It is
Yeah.
tough to eat, quote unquote, all natural all the time.
And even if
Yeah.
you grow your own shit, the seeds that you are using were mass produced and
Uh-huh.
fucking engineered with
Right.
too.
Yeah.
So
There's no
it's-
escaping it.
Yeah.
We're
sucks.
literally trapped, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You
It
know?
sucks.
And you think you're making these good decisions. You go out and you're growing your own food. I'm growing my own vegetables right now, but like you're saying, those seeds came from the same damn company.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they're not
same, dude.
sprayed with pesticides as they're
Mhm.
growing. But it's like if the powers that be really wanted to fuck you up, they know how to do it, and they've been doing it forever.
Well,
And,
I think it's a slow kill. I think they do it so, like, Big Pharma, there's a reason Big Pharma has been the biggest lobbyist, with every presidential campaign since, what was it, JFK or, one of those guys. But these chronic problems, and there's a reason why they're chronic problems. Why do we have chronic issues? Why don't we solve the issues so they're not chronic?
Right.
Everything now is chronic pain, chronic depression, chronic whatever, blah, blah, blah.
It's because they only treat the symptoms instead of the cause. Yeah.
Yep. They don't want to figure out what's wrong, what's really causing the problem,
Yeah.
because you can't make money off that. You can't make money off cancer cures, AIDS cures.
Which is kind of why I think it's commendable that at least the Trump administration is attacking the big pharma, and they're opening up competitive channels with Europe and driving down costs. Dude, when I first started getting my Adderall, it was like at Costco, the cheapest it was before Trump was $78 for what I get. Now it's $22 for the exact same thing. And it's because he's opened up more competition within the big pharma, and he's trying to disrupt it. He's trying to bring down a bunch of costs, because he does recognize that there is a problem. I think it was recognized before, but they just didn't. I mean, you just have to have certain things aligned. Yeah, you have to have certain policies aligned, and you're fighting with everybody. You're the fucking president. You're literally a puppet. Again,
well, that's
you're
a
just
beautiful
the face
thing
of
capitalism.
Yes,
is that competition side of things. It's good.
Drives innovation, man.
Yeah,
it's important. Look at Cuba and look at North Korea. Where can you get a patent there? Fuck no, dude. If you create something, the government owns it.
Correct.
And they probably don't even have the resources to create it. Because it's all internally handled. And dude, the problem with that, getting back to the government, it's dude, government can't do shit right, dude.
No. Well, they can, but just what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, where the chips land.
Right.
I think if humans all pull together for the right things, they can get shit done.
Have you heard of
storming Area 51?
Mount Weather? Yeah. So first of all, Area 51's empty. So Bob Lazar talked about that. It's at Area S4 is where all the aliens are. Now that he's said that,
that's on the mountainside. They probably moved it.
They've moved all of it. So I don't think there's shit at Area 51.
It's all a facade.
But Mount Weather is a secret base. Okay. And this all ties into martial law. I have a bigger thing. I'm just kind of laying this out here. So Mount Weather is a facility that's in this granite mountain in the Appalachians, right? So what the rumor has it is that they have an underground city where they have a president, a cabinet, where they have functioning hospitals, streets, markets. And what they do is they test run people's reactions for food shortages. All right. The conspiracy theory, like in this book, is saying that it's FEMA controlled. Okay, why is that important? Because when FEMA declares a national emergency, right, or martial law, so when they declare national emergency, they can implement martial law without question.
Which is like government intervention.
Right, which is where your rights are gone. There's curfews, everything like that. You are ordered to go to these places, Usually it'll either be the post office or recently all them damn Walmarts are closing down, and they're using some of those for the containment centers down on the border now, coincidentally enough. And the rumor is they're practicing because when the time's right, they're going to declare national emergency and then implement martial law. And then this president and his cabinet are going to take over, and things are never going to be the same. Because once martial law is in place, the Constitution no longer exists.
But how do they? And the only way to declare martial law is a national emergency.
Through national emergency is when you can label it,
an alien.
Well, even something as simple as Hurricane Katrina, natural disaster. They can claim a national emergency and use that as their excuse to implement martial law.
Or like Yellowstone.
So kind of going back to the black nobility, the Rothschilds in the Vatican. All those people take oaths in their secret societies, like the Dead Poets Society, Skull and Bones, all those guys. Every president's been a part of a secret society. Yeah. Going even back to George Washington and things like that.
Masons and stuff.
But once they declare or take that oath to be Mason or, whatever, no matter what oath they take afterwards, does not supersede their oath they took to the Masons. So every president that has been in place and has taken their oath to this country does not supersede their loyalty to the Masonry or to the Illuminati, whatever. Yeah. And so that's why George Bush, when he was the director of CIA, we went down to Panama. I trained a guy that was down in Panama, and I used to, always tell people, thank you for your service, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he goes, don't. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he goes, we never should have been there. He goes, I don't know why we were there. And he goes, the people we killed, the things we did. He goes, I've never slept right since. And want to know who profited the most off of that intervention? Bush got $300 million off of that intervention in Panama into his personal account.
Yeah.
They're all bought, man.
Well, even
they are
bought and sold.
9/11 and all that shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a reason why there's 13 levels to the pyramid on the back of your dollar. There's a reason why there's a little eyeball on the top of that pyramid in the dollar. There's all symbols, and people are like, oh, well, they're just pictures. No, symbols have meanings.
Yeah, they do. It's all masonry shit, dude.
Even the medical sign at St. Al's or St. Luke's, physician sign, the
two
thing
snakes.
with the snakes, that's a satanic symbol.
Yeah. It's, what was it? I was, I think, in Pagan. Mm-hmm. It's like or Egyptian. I forgot what it is.
It was pagan.
Isn't it like it could be the mixture of DNA?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So that brings off to another thing, like that humans are half, or they have reptilian DNA, which is why your skin has little scales if you look inside.
Sure.
It. So the medical symbol is two reptiles around fucking
staff or something.
A staff,
like that.
right?
Yeah.
And they're surrounding it like DNA. So
well, and they just found that third strand of DNA that goes in between it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, am I correct?
Yeah.
So it's a study of
that goes between
human
the helix.
DNA.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you study it, then you know where the fuck it comes from, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right there, but nobody ever really thinks about it. Those symbols mean shit.
Well, and reptilians is a whole different. That's a whole different.
Have you ever seen people that quote unquote face shift on TV?
Shifted? Yeah.
See,
Justin.
I don't know if I believe
the
that.
Queen. Me either. I'm skeptical. I'm half and half, but sometimes like the Queen of England, she does it a lot. And it is sketchy.
But
and what's his face? Who's the kid again? Who's the singer? He's like famous. What's his name? Justin something? No.
Oh, Justin
Bieber?
No, Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber. Is that his name? Justin Bieber? Yeah. I don't know his first name. But no, there's one where he's being held in court, and when he looks up, you can see like a second
the eyelid.
Yeah, you see like a second lid.
Miley Cyrus did
up.
the same shit where her pupil went vertical and then it went back out like a cat eye or reptile eye.
But they starting to do this shit with news anchors, and it's like, oh, come on, these
Right.
guys can't be that smart, or they can't be that important.
But
mass media is a tool of manipulation.
There was a report where Justin Bieber flew in to a private airport, and there were people there watching him, trying to take photos and whatnot. And they said he was shapeshifting, and it was literally, it was literally in like teen people, which is like, it's whatever. It's almost, what do you call it? Like tabloid at that point.
Like The Onion.
and
yeah, but not that bad.
Shapeshifters. I believe in shapeshifters because even my ancient ancestors talk about them.
Yes.
And then when we're talking about that, we're talking about creation. So that's what I was saying. Like I believe that whoever created us was fucking around. That's why we have like the Greek mythology. Like, there was a dude with wings. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they were fucking around, and they took some DNA from fucking animals and put them in humans.
I think that shit really happened too.
But do you think those are extraterrestrials, or do you think they're like the Atlantis?
I think they were a result of them trying to figure out what would work best.
And do you think that's like where Bigfoot kind of came from?
They were all
too?
gods. They were huge.
Right.
They were bigger than anything.
They were giants.
Like minotaurs or centaurs or, things like that. They were trying to figure out what would be the best, worker bee to mine gold.
And, and the whole dinosaur thing, too.
Yeah.
Like, I think the dinosaurs were killed off on purpose.
I think so, too.
To make room for the experiments.
Yeah.
Well, think about this. Only the dinosaurs died. Everything else is coming back but the dinosaurs.
Well, not all of them, though. Like some of the ones that are under the water. And maybe some in Middle Earth if there's such a thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Noah's Ark was a DNA bank. I don't think he really fit. You mean to tell me that some of those damn penguins swam 6,000 miles in less than a week or so?
Yeah.
Right. impossible.
Right.
Impossible.
And the size and dimensions that we've recreated, there's no possible way you're going to fit any of those things on there. And so it make more sense to have some sort of DNA.
And
So
Noah's
do you think the
family
flood was-
repopulated?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
One
Tim.
mom and like 5 or 6 guys repopulated the
Like
world.
a woman must have
Nice.
died while giving labor sometime. Like, come on, man.
So that means your sons all banged their moms. The son banged their
Yeah.
mom and
Or
had kids.
sisters.
Yeah, right. No, there's no sisters. There's mama. I don't think there's any other women there.
Oh yeah, no, that okay, yeah, that's right. I thought you meant like when she had kids, like you're all
banging their own daughters or nieces.
Yeah.
So everything could be, like a story for something that maybe occurred on this, or maybe didn't. Maybe occurred somewhere else. So like when you go back to Mars, so when you talk about like Atlantis, you talk about the civilizations that were there, and some of the stories point to Mars.
Yep.
So that there was like 2 species on Mars, and they've always fought each other or some shit like that. And one of them left and came to Earth, and then the other ones stayed there, and they fucked up the planet. They destroyed the atmosphere.
They think that was like an atomic war too.
They found
right?
nuclear isotopes in the dirt in the soil there.
Yeah.
So then that species flew and came over to Earth.
Sure.
And then they came to where.
What if they were the comet that wiped out the dinosaurs?
Well, there's
I've
all
heard
kinds
that
of
too.
shit.
Yeah.
But see,
I've heard that.
And so we're always trying to look for information, right? Like, where the fuck did we come? What does this all mean and whatever? And for somebody who's smarter says, you know what, I'm going to manipulate the situation. And they don't need to know that shit because I don't even know. But I'm going to make them believe that
There's
I have
a
all the
scientist
answers.
that theorized this, and so there's some things he used as a basis. So sunburning and chronic back pain. Okay, our skin is not naturally adapted to this planet and its UV rays.
That's my evolutionary like argument. Like strip us naked and throw us in the elements, we fucking die.
Yeah,
We
and so that makes that argument from like Mars more plausible. If we're used to being farther away, or if we originated farther away from a sun, you know, and then also the back problems is because we're not used to the gravity, you know. So Mars obviously being smaller, that's a smaller planet,
no,
less
Mars
gravity.
is bigger than us.
Mm-mm.
Mars is smaller than us?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was bigger.
They
than
call
us.
it the sister planet, supposedly.
It's like 2/3 Earth size.
Oh
something
no
like
shit!
That.
I didn't know that. That totally makes sense. I thought it was bigger, so it was less gravity. I mean, more gravity.
So, if, for example, if there truly is a dome over this whole world, and it is behind the moon, so the moon isn't as far as the government tells us it is, so you can, actually look at the fucking craters with a telescopic lens. Weird, right? When supposedly, I guess it takes 2 months to get there on a fucking rocket.
Yeah,
Okay, so anyways,
going like tens of thousands of miles an hour.
yeah. So if the
Right.
sun and the moon, and then there's a dome over it, kind of thing, and say that there's these other planets, there's Saturn, there's Mars and stuff. What if species did come from Mars and they came here, but somebody said, you guys fucked up that fucking planet, and you want to fuck up this one? But
We're gonna keep you, because you're gonna kill the whole solar system at that point.
Yeah, and that's probably why no one can get back to Mars.
Well, that plays into the story of us being protected for 1,000 years in the Christian Bible, or a lot of that stuff where we're being looked after and protected from evil, and then they're going to take the veil off and just let it all run rampant. So either we're in that period now, or it's about to happen, but there's a lot of different cultures that believe we have some sort of like force field around us, or some sort of protection.
Yeah.
And the argument is what happens. Have you ever heard of the Kelper belt, or the Kelper zone?
Yeah, it's the radiation.
Right.
Yeah.
Why didn't our astronauts cook out there?
Didn't they say they would need like 4 feet of like lead, like pure lead,
Correct.
to resist
Well, the
those?
Russians
Correct.
said they couldn't get past that, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
nobody can.
Yeah. So, and Native Americans, the Milky Way. Okay. So I've heard this. The Milky Way actually isn't the Milky Way, even though it looks like it. It's a big crack in the dome, and it's all those lights that are out there are reflecting off of the crack. And that's why it looks like it's a fucking Milky Way. Like it's the center of the universe, an eye that's like ripped open there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ever seen that picture of deep space where it looks like an eyeball?
No.
Yeah,
I don't
so
think so.
kinda-
It's like a nebula.
Yeah, kind of going back into what Tim was saying about being a part of this big organism. They found this thing, and I'm telling you, man, you got the iris, and you got the shape, and you got the pupil. Yep, there it is.
Is it right there?
Yep.
Whoa.
Right?
But again, this is like...
Now, see, how I mean, they could create this.
I know, it's
They
all
could-
based on data.
Back to that compilation thing where you're putting together
Yeah.
zeros and ones and...
And
But, that's fucking cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
now I did hear
It does look like you're looking out of somebody's eye right there.
if there is a
Whoa.
dome and the dome is protecting this planet or this surface, and say water came in and flooded the surface before and now it's not because it's protected, well then what does that mean? Does that mean beyond the dome is water, is liquid?
Well, NASA, I was just going to say that. NASA actually just came out recently and said that they believe that space is like 90% water.
Okay.
Like liquid.
So and
What?
if it is,
Yeah, let's pull this up
And
real
see-
quick. NASA space is liquid. I
And-
swear I read this.
and if it is
NASA
liquid,
space,
guess what's
might
inside of
be
us?
liquid.
Right.
Right. So
Mhm.
so we could be a cell that's protected,
Mhm.
right? Because we've got some kind of like shell over us,
Mm-hmm.
but we're floating in some other being. We're
Yeah.
just floating in the universe, and there's all kinds of other shit in the universe too.
Sorry, I'm like looking it up. I don't know how to search this. I don't know if it said water. And then I just remember making the connection. I was like, well, that makes sense
there's-
because they train their astronauts in water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do that to counteract no gravity or to simulate no
But if
gravity.
they can't get past the Kuiper Belt, right? If they can't get past the fucking
Some
dome,
scientist
then it's
claim.
just all.
But if I mean, it makes sense, right? If you look up, the sky's blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of looks like water. I've often thought maybe we're part of inner Earth, like we're on the inside.
No, I don't know. That could be. It's just beyond our comprehension, man. Because we're never even given, NASA never a straight answer. You
Well,
know
they
what I
lost
mean?
the tapes about. They
Yeah.
lost all the original tapes to the moon, like the most eventful thing
or
ever
the
in the history
technology.
of mankind.
Yeah,
said
get
that
out of
they,
here.
Get the fuck
They,
out.
they don't know how to
dude.
re-land on the moon.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Dude,
they
and the
don't
Russians
have
are
the
being
funds.
straight.
Like, come on, that's
There's no way
fucking
they're
retarded.
gonna-
Or let's say we did go there, and so what happened after 1972 when we quit going up there? So let's say it's all real.
Mm-hmm.
What did they find? Because there's Nazis claim to have built bases up on the moon, and
They think that they might have even gone to Mars,
mhm.
and Tesla had plans to go to Mars, and when he died, the FBI raided all of his shit and took all of
They
his
did that
stuff.
before he died, man. They ruined that man. They
They
did him
stole all his
dirty.
patents and shit.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Edison.
man. Edison, yeah,
Yep.
totally fucking
an American
over.
hero. Mhm.
Bastard.
Yeah, stole all the shit he
Everything
did,
he's
man.
famous for, he's
He
stolen.
fucking stole it.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Put Tesla on the dollar bill.
Fuck.
Well, he wanted free energy for everybody,
Yeah.
and
They think he created a death ray because he said he created a weapon that the world wasn't ready for.
Well, and he was contracted
Mhm.
through the government to
Mhm.
and I don't know what
J.P. Morgan.
Yeah,
And J.P. Morgan ruined him.
for the defense,
Yep.
like the Department of Defense, and I think they contracted him to build 2 or 3 of them, and he was a couple years behind, and then he ended up dying. I think during the time that he was he tried to repitch it to China or some
Right.
shit. Yeah, somebody.
He died a really sad, lonely man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a
Sucks.
fucking apartment,
Yeah, with
all by
pigeons.
himself with pigeons.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's sad.
So say we did know information, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, there isn't anything you can really do about it. If
No,
you
but
knew
there'd
the
be
truth,
anarchy.
right? But in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Nope.
Isn't that weird?
And that's why I don't understand what the big deal is. Everybody and this is why I don't really associate myself with a religion, because I don't think I need a religion to be morally, sound or have moral substance to me. Whether or not I believe in an intellectual being is a whole different thing, but I don't believe we need religion for morality. And there's a lot of religious people that believe that without religion, there'd just be a bunch of raping and murdering, because why not? We got nothing else to live for.
On a Sunday,
Yeah.
just the one day that you dedicate, however many little hours you've got.
Yeah.
Oh, funny side fact, Sunday's not the real Sabbath day, and it's one of the Vatican's ploys to prove that they're more powerful than God.
You gotta
By
tell me
creating
about
it.
this.
So
Is
think
there-
about this. Break it down.
I think they did create Sunday. I've heard that.
What's the first day of the week?
Monday.
No.
No, it's Sunday.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So what's the seventh day?
Saturday.
Uh-huh.
So Saturday, I
It's
know
supposed
it's
to be the real Sabbath. And the
and-
Vatican back in 400 AD or something like that declared that Sunday would be the Sabbath, just as a thing to say, I'm recognized as more of a figure than God himself.
yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, because Jewish a religion, they practice on Sundays. Am I right?
You want to talk about Jews?
I don't really know much about Jews.
Oh.
they're one of the species that came from Mars too.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
I
No
think.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of believe that.
So this rabbit hole I went down with the Jews is deep, and a lot of people do not like it whatsoever. Okay, so walk with me on this one. Okay, I'm not saying I believe this shit. Okay.
Yeah.
So going back with the Nazis, so the Nazi swastika in Hindu religion is a symbol of peace. Okay.
It is.
Going to the start of this, what if you're aware what the catalyst was before Pearl Harbor that started World War II? Hitler arrested one of the Rothschilds,
Right.
okay, because for war crimes or something like that. I forget what it was, but he arrested one of the Rothschilds. Soon after, World War II breaks out. Okay, what a coincidence! And after this, and the symbol of peace. What if? Okay, now I got to go back a little bit. So the Jewish people, so let's say the Rothschilds they've been at the side of every war, both sides of every war since the French Revolution with Napoleon. They've orchestrated and choreographed, been a part of every war, profited off of it. Okay, what if Hitler figured this out? What if Hitler figured out that the Jewish people that we know, because I think the Jewish people of Israel are the false Jews. I think the real Jews are in Ethiopia.
All right.
And so what if he figured out that they're the only reason why we do not have world peace? And if the Rothschilds and all these people, these corrupt people, are all part of the Jewish religion and claim Jewish faith, what if he figured that out?
Yeah.
What if he figured that out? And not saying that is correct in what he did to all those people and murdering 6 or 7 or 8 million people, not saying that was by any means, acceptable or okay whatsoever, but what
the
if,
theory behind it.
right? What if,
And then they turned him to be the bad guy because
Correct.
they control the media.
Exactly.
And the money.
It is possible.
And the money.
It is possible because like nowadays you can, dude. I can make a false mug shot of me and put it on the internet and say I did these ferocious crimes and shit, and I bet you people are just gonna spread it and they're gonna say, "What a sick individual!"
Right.
And you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They fall into it. Now imagine
history's written by the victor, man.
Right. So, what if they were just trying to eliminate the problem,
Yeah.
and the problem happened to be so corrupt.
We got figured out.
Just like
They're
religion,
so corrupt.
just like
man.
religion, people think that my
Religion's
God is
so
white
corrupt,
and he
man.
comes from Middle East, and I'm not gonna second think about shit, dude. That was made up. Something was made up. Something was fucked with, and now you believe the fucked up version. So
Well,
it
I
is
mean,
possible.
like,
I mean, look how
the-
materialistic those Jews are, the Israelite Jews are. Look how materialistic they are. And if you look at any sort of religious text, the Jewish people are supposed to be compassionate, of the earth, of people, giving, caring, all this stuff. The Jews in Ethiopia, that's the way they live their lives. They live in huts. They don't need much. They are just good people. That's what they do. That's their job in this life, is to be good people and have good community. And then you go on the flip side, and in the Bible and across everything, beware the false prophet. All this shit. I think Israel. It's very plausible to me that we have been so far deceived that we have viewed this entity that is the only reason why we have evil on this planet as a good thing. Because look about it. Of all the races, they have their own term, anti-Semitism. Why is it illegal to not like a Jew? It's not illegal to not like a white person, to not like a black person, Mexican guy, whatever. That's not illegal. It's illegal to be anti-Semitic. Why do they have their own law for them?
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is
And
crazy.
not saying that it's right, but why are they so special?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And downtown Israel, the biggest road in Israel is called Rothschild Boulevard. Why?
Yeah. Well,
Why?
they fucking
Do you
knew
think
what
it-
they wanted to do before they came over here?
Do you think it kind of ties in through not only generations, but maybe hundreds,
Hundreds of years, dude.
hundreds
This has
of
been
years?
being set up because look at Switzerland. Want to know where the black nobility resides? Switzerland. Why have they been kept out neutral through 2 world wars, a French Revolution, and all this shit? Why were they not attacked one time? All those countries were invaded and taken over except Switzerland. Why?
Whoa.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Because the people who are running the wars, that's their country.
That's their safe house. Dude, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is.
And this book goes in depth, and so this last part of this book is all these different. They call it the rules of the Goim. So it's what the Israelites have labeled. So Goim is a person or a Gentile who is not Jewish, and if you are not Jewish, you are the scum of the earth. You owe your soul to them. So they believe. And those are the Zionist Jews, which are mostly reside in Israel. And want to know, most of our Congress are dual citizens in the U.S. and Israel.
Yeah. So and there's more to the story of who's running the country and shit like that than the regular person who's living in a trailer down in Florida cares or even knows about.
They have no concept.
Weird.
No, they can't even comprehend it because of going back to cognitive dissonance. They have been conditioned to such a sense. No, my government wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of shit.
They pay my bills.
Yeah.
They wouldn't lie to me. They pay for my food.
But no, man, I've always, since I heard that, it kind of changed my life with my outlook on World War II and stuff, and kind of the Jewish people. And once you look outside of what religion has taught you about the Jewish people being God's chosen people, you look at all the evil they've done, and look at how much evil has been done in the name of God through the Spanish Inquisition, through what the papacy did with the Crusades, and all these people in God's name that have gone out and killed people and wiped people out.
And died.
Right.
Been sacrificed.
What kind of God is that?
Yeah.
You know?
Same thing though for the Catholic Church.
Oh,
Man.
absolutely. No, that's
You
what I'm saying.
know,
The
these two-
Spanish
yeah.
Inquisition was the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
You know the movie Saw?
Yeah.
You know where they got most of their torture devices from? The Spanish Inquisition. That's how they tortured people into becoming God-fearing individuals and becoming faithful Christians.
Whoa.
Fucking separate your jaw in half.
It's some crazy shit back then. Just seeing all those paintings and such.
Yeah.
Very barbaric,
what is
man.
going on?
And why does the Pope now have satanic figures all around
Oh
this
yeah,
stuff?
I've seen all that shit.
What?
Everywhere. 2 days ago, did you see this?
No.
They found bones in the Vatican that are less than 5 weeks old. They were looking for this 14-year-old girl, and they are finding bones everywhere in the Vatican.
No way.
So watch, this is all just gonna disappear. It's on our news now. And
Well, I knew that they had uncovered two graves of like a princess and somebody else on the grounds, and both of those were empty. After like an anonymous note was sent to the parents of this child, you know, who had gone missing back in like 84 or something like that. She was like 15. And then they kept looking, but dude, it's not in any of my updates, man. Like this doesn't come across my news feed at all.
You remember the Pope before this guy? Was it John Paul? I think it was Pope John Paul from Poland.
See, the one who retired, basically? Yeah, okay.
Want to know how he got his start? He sold Hitler his cyanide gas that he used to kill all the Jews.
Dude,
That's
at the
how-
Catholic Church,
That was his in, and then he worked his way up to papacy, and he was the Pope of the world, and he is responsible for killing millions of people, and he led the Catholic Church. He was part of Hitler's youth
they
as well.
smuggled a bunch of the top line Nazis out.
30,000.
Yeah.
Scientists.
Down to South America.
No, to America. Those guys fled. They fled on their own. We brought 30,000 scientists over here from Germany, and it's the most.
And I bet they were practicing on people, like just strays, basically orphans and stuff. They probably just plucked them out and did a bunch of tests on them.
Twins, all that sort of shit. They were doing that stuff all the time. And you know, German engineers built the Denver airport, and that's why it's built in a swastika. Everybody goes, "Oh, it's convenient for whatever."
Yeah, it is, dude.
And
there's Hitler and like German.
Have you seen that horse that's in front of the Denver airport? They call Big Blue. Yeah. He first of all killed his owner or creator, the artist. It broke, like when they were setting it up, broke and fell on the owner, killed him instantly.
Yeah. Damn.
They made the eyes glow red. His hooves are bleeding. They have red lines coming out of his hooves. Dude, it's the most eerie, ominous looking.
The whole airport's creepy, dude.
And dude, they have a plaque out there. I have a picture of it at home. Thank you to the New World Air Commission for the donations and making this, whatever. Look up New World Air Commission. It doesn't exist.
Until like 20, well, no, and then like, doesn't it say like established like in the future? Like they made it in the future, basically? I think I saw something around there
And all
on
the
a plaque.
art in there, and
Hella Nazi, like
random
World War
ass-
II.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Well, it's not necessarily World War II. It's art about genocide, essentially.
Okay.
And so this German officer has a sword, and all these people are sick, and it looks like they've been poisoned. And then the next one, you walk an aisle over, is the German officer's dead, laying on the ground. There's a dove above it, and this German kid in his little stockings and the overalls and stuff has all the country's swords wrapped up in all their flags, and he's putting it down in the middle as a symbol of world peace. And so what it's depicting is a lot of people are going to die, and then we can have world peace. Going back to the New World Order, that's one of their first rules. We need population control. And that's what the Georgia Guidestones say in 8
so
different
like a
languages.
world war is about to break out, maybe
Well,
clean
not
up a
even.
little bit of some Russia. And
Did you see the
America.
Pentagon just got ordered to release whether or not they weaponize ticks and put Lyme disease? They think
I've heard about
Lyme
that.
disease is government created. They also think they're starting to come out
because it came out of a certain area in like
Right.
Pennsylvania or something like
Correct.
that. Is it Pennsylvania?
Same. I think it was Pennsylvania. Same with the Zika virus.
And the Zika virus, the
Uh-huh.
same. Yeah.
And look at all the fucked up deformations that are happening in all those kids down there in Brazil after they release that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear something about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Dude, that is crazy, man. I definitely, Lyme disease. I heard that one. Is that what you said earlier, right?
Mhm.
Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that one. It makes sense that they could weaponize ticks like that. I just thought that maybe it got out and the ticks got infected instead of them intentionally
No,
doing
I think
it,
they
but-
intentionally did that, yeah.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
would be difficult to just kind of lose, I don't know, like an unknown strand
Right.
of...
That shit doesn't happen.
No, it
With-
doesn't.
With how organized those guys are and the checks that they have and the systems they go through, this shit doesn't happen by mistake with them.
Right.
I don't buy it.
Dude, you had an alien story. You want to tell us about your
Yeah.
alien story, man?
Sure. So it was probably around 3 or 4.
Mhm.
I lived in Homedale.
Okay.
If you know where that's at.
Yeah.
And I woke up from my bed, and the whole place was foggy. And I got up and I walked out to the hallway, and my parents' door was open, and they were sleeping, and I can see them like sleeping on the bed and cover over them. And then up to the right is a window, and a super bright light was coming out, like inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was weird because there was all this fog everywhere.
Yeah.
But it wasn't cold. I don't remember being cold at all. And I looked down the hallway, and there's this figure, and it's standing at the end of the hallway, and it's gray, and it's about my height.
Interesting.
And so I remember walking to it, and I don't know why I would do that, but as I was walking, it was almost like I left my body, and I could see myself walking
Yeah.
this way. And then all of a sudden it started going like this, like almost like like when you go to like a fun house,
Mhm.
and then there's like a
mirrors.
tunnel or
Yeah.
something, and you're walking on a bridge, and you
Oh,
lose your
yeah.
Oh, I
balance.
see. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
Vertigo?
Yeah, something like that.
Like
Yeah.
you spun around real fast and everything.
Yeah.
just started
So
to-
it's almost like trying, I don't know, something was happening to where it almost, I don't know. But anyways, everything was turning like this, but
Mhm.
I knew I was still going somewhere. And I remember coming closer to, maybe about as close as to where this camera is. And I got up to it, and I saw it was these big eyes, black eyes like this.
Mhm.
The skin was scaly.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing claws. And I thought, and I remember thinking, when I come close to it, I'm going to be able to see its chest go like this or something. And when I got there, it didn't even do anything like that. It was
Mm.
just still. And then I remember thinking, I'm going to see the reflection from its eye. And the left eye, which is about right here, it was so dark and so black. And all of a sudden, I was just scared. It was almost like looking into nothing.
Right.
And so then I remember thinking, I'm going to hit it. So I went like this. And when I thought about this after it came back to me, when I remembered all this shit, I was like thinking, why would I want to hit it? And why would I want to hit it like that?
Yeah.
And then I realized, well, I was a kid.
Yeah.
If you look at a kid, the way they don't hit like
Right.
like a boxer.
Right.
And so I remember going like this, like I was going to come down. And I knew that it was fragile, and if I hit it, that the head is going to go in like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I went like this, and I was frozen, and all I remember is looking into those black eyes.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I remember, I woke up in my bed. It wasn't foggy anymore. It was regular light. My legs didn't work, and I couldn't scream. And
Damn.
had no voice.
Like a sleep paralysis kind of thing?
Kind of like that. But my upper body moved, and I grabbed the side of my bed, and I tried pulling me off, and I just fell to the floor, and I tried to like scoot it was almost like my legs were dead.
Yeah.
And I was trying to crawl to the hallway. I can hear my mom cooking or something in the kitchen, and I tried yelling for her, and I couldn't say anything, and I was so extremely tired. So I was like, I don't want to lay here on the floor. So I kind of propped myself over on the bed, kind of like this, and I used my legs as like tripod kind of thing. And then I got on the bed, and then I pulled myself on, and I was so exhausted, and then I guess I fell asleep. I remembered all of this in 4th grade. So that was like before kindergarten or anything like that. And so 4th grade, I remembered it. And then in 7th grade, I saw like a NBC, they did this story about how adults have these encounters with aliens or something.
Mm-hmm.
And here was this old dude on the TV talking about how he woke up in this, and it was like light everywhere and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Right,
like he's
right.
talking exactly like what I saw
Mm-hmm.
and what I experienced. And here's this adult talking about it. And that's when I was like, something happened.
Right.
And so I was kind of wary about that. And every so often I would see shit in the sky. And then I started doing more research. And it was kind of like, there's this saying that if you actually do see UFOs, then it's kind of like a bad thing, because then they kind of know that you
Mm-hmm.
know they're there,
Mm-hmm.
and then it makes them want to come see you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like curse almost.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely.
every so years after that, I'd always feel different. And besides of what I went through as a teenager, passing away at 16 and coming back, it's just that I've always had this like sixth sense almost thing. It was just heightened when I came back. But in 2012, it was a real bad year for me. And I had like this separation and shit. And so I wasn't eating,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working out really bad, and I was pushing myself to the limits and such. And I was like so depressed or whatever. And it almost felt like I could die. Like if I wanted to die, I could die. Just lay in my bed and die kind of thing. And then shit started happening again. And I started seeing shit like amber lights in a formation slowly above the skies. And I called over this one chick I met online, and I was like, you know, I kind of wanted some kind of socialism. And I was like, hey, you want to come over and, you know, have some wine or something? And she's like, sure. And then I started telling her about how I see these things in the sky at night. And it was a Saturday night. And she's like, I don't believe in, you know, aliens or UFOs and stuff. And I was like, that's cool. I'm just letting you know, what I see. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's cool, whatever. And she's like, let's go out and have a cigarette. So we go out the front, you know, and it's kind of chilly, you know. I light up her cigarette and shit. And then all of a sudden we hear something in the sky, which is odd.
Mm-hmm.
And then she looks up, and then this bright light goes shoo, like a straight line, like shoo. She's like, did you see? And then right when that, another one chased it. She's like, and it was almost like deja vu. It was like the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then she looked at me and she goes, what the fuck was that?
Right.
And I was like, I told you. There's shit that's like above, like in my area, in my home. And it's these things, these crafts. And she was like, let's go inside.
Do you
So
think
she
it
went
has-
inside.
Do you think it has to do with like the Air Force Base and Mountain Home?
No,
No.
no way. These are
I've
these.
seen weird shit in our skies.
Well, I mean, then we go back to like, does the military have these kind of aircrafts? Anyways,
Right.
but these things have no sound,
No.
and they fly in certain patterns. It's
Right.
just crazy. And but after that, we went inside and fucking. She was like, okay, well, I gotta leave. I don't think I'm gonna come back again. And she never came back.
Yeah.
dude. Like she did come back.
Yeah,
Like when
Bro,
you
freaked her out, man.
Well, they have those swarm drones that can fly in formation and look like UFOs. Have you ever seen those? It's a weaponized drone that they drop like 1 million of them, and they can fly in formation and coordinate with each other. And I saw
Just
some test
confuse
runs.
the enemies.
But these
and-
things were huge. Like there was this like from my sense, I stay away from anything that's amber color in the sky, period, because that's a bad thing
It's a
for me.
giveaway.
I almost feel like those are the bad species
Sure.
of aliens that you don't ever want to approach. If they're amber, stay the fuck away from that
See,
shit.
I've seen a bunch of orbs around here.
No way.
A bunch of orange orbs that flash, flash, and then they're just
I've
fade
seen
away.
him. I've seen one in the sky, and it dropped one out, and it was just
Yeah, I've seen
flashing
that too.
underneath it, and it just chills there for like 10, 15 minutes. Because I take my dog out like every night. And I'm always looking in the sky, and I've seen that a few times. I've seen a lot of shooting stars actually, but like for the most part, I saw that, and then I saw one that was in the sky for like a couple weeks, but it was always in the same spot, and then it just all of a sudden just disappeared one night. Because I had noticed it, I was like, that doesn't really look like a star, but it's just kind of chilling there. But dude, yeah, I've seen. I mean, I was driving home one night and I saw something in the sky. The whole time I was driving home, it was right in front of me, and it was super bright blue, but I couldn't make out any detail. It was probably, I don't know, a few miles down the road, but it was just over the horizon. And I was like, that's not a star, because there's no other fucking stars out right now. What is in the sky? And then all of a sudden I heard like 4 helicopters just blazing past me overhead, and this is like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy, man.
Well, there is definitely shit. There's activity around here.
Yeah.
All you got to do is just stand outside. and
Go
chill.
south of Twin Falls. Apparently in Idaho, the most UFO sightings happen. It's the Snake
River Canyon.
Reservoir.
Yeah.
Apparently down there they have like 20, 30, 40 of them a year. Of these black boxes with 2 golden orbs that come out or follow it, and it doesn't make any noise.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think it's common shit.
You
But-
think it's stuff that's coming down from like Hollow Earth, maybe?
It's tough
And they're
to
coming
know,
up through
man.
these giant
But
caves on these Federal Reserve
Could be.
properties.
I think people are being abducted and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
And I think like
Amnesia.
and for like 2012, like the shit that I was going through, like I never saw so much shit in the sky until like I was in that kind of condition.
Right.
So I think
They know when you're weak.
I think they come
Yeah.
around to say, hey, what's wrong with this thing, this
Right.
person or whatever. And there's like something on the inside of my jaw, and it like I can feel it with my tongue. And I've gone to the dentist a couple times, and I'm like, do you know what that is? And then they look and they're like, well, no, it looks like it's part of a bone, or it's not your tooth though. And I'm like, well, can you x-ray it? And so then they x-ray it, and you don't see anything there, but I can feel it there.
Huh.
And I've always wanted to kind of get a knife or a razor
Yeah.
and cut it and then try
See
to
if there's
pry
an
it out.
implant or something in there.
Yeah,
That would be
Whoa.
wild.
because it's been there
Whoa.
since, I don't know, maybe junior high,
That'd be crazy.
something. But so either maybe, I don't know, maybe I was so depressed and malnourished or whatever,
Could be.
and delusional
Maybe,
that I
but I
started
doubt
seeing
it.
shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then and then that girl comes over and she's seeing shit too. I don't know,
Yeah.
but now that I'm not in that kind of like
Right.
like I'm not fucking dying inside.
Yeah.
I don't see that shit often.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
like that.
Every
And-
time I go through airport security, they stop and check me because I set off the x-ray for something in my shoulder. I've never had surgery or nothing on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And they always stop me and they're like, what's going on with your shoulder? There's a void there. And I was like, well, there shouldn't be no damn void there.
Is this through the scanner or the?
So that big one, you stand there and you do
Yeah.
your thing, and they step out, and it always shows a box on my right shoulder, like there's something there. And
Weird.
they're like, have you ever had a metal shoulder replacement? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, no.
Damn.
Not at
That's
all.
crazy.
But I had a bunch of lucid dreams growing up. You know, a lot of dreams have come true, and I've seen shadow people. The most vivid one, dude.
Me
If I could draw, I could still to this day draw the shadow person I saw. So I was coming out of my room, and we had this computer room at my parents' house growing up, and the living room was kind of like 20 feet that way, and so it was light in the living room and dark out of my room, so there was light and darkness mixing, because I've tried to logically explain this, you know, a lot. And as I was walking, there's a chair just sitting right there, and as I walk out of the corner of my eye, I see this kid sitting there, and he's got these bangs. He's got these dark ass circles under his eyes. He's like, his skin is pale as shit. He's got a little bow tie, a little button up, jacket, everything. I'm telling you, I know the details to this day of what this kid looked like. And I was so sure that this kid was there. And I immediately, as soon as I recognized it, the hair stood up, and I turned and I swung as hard as I could, and I hit my chair, my dad's computer chair, into the wall. And he gets, what the fuck are you doing? You know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was like, Dad, I just saw somebody down there. And he goes, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. And I was like, no, dude, like, I really saw somebody down there. The details were just,
Yeah.
and I was freaked out, man. I have no explanation for it.
Well,
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
And I've met my guardian angel too. So who I think is my
guide.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And so my grandpa was super religious, super into angels, and before he died of cancer, he had dreams for like 3 or 4 nights that angels were talking to him, they're hanging out with him, and he was not scared whatsoever to die.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was training to be an altar boy, you know, growing up in New York, and he said he used to have dreams, you know, where he would sit down, and he was always driving, I guess, and he was talking to this blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady, and they would just talk about things that were going on, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then one day she looked at him and said, we're going to meet again, but not for a long time. Everything's going to be okay. I have to go now. And he said he's never had that dream since. Before I had my brain tumor surgery, I had a dream of this blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady leaning up against a bar, and she wasn't like drop dead gorgeous by any means, but when I looked at her, I got this feeling of peace, and just like this, like her aura was beautiful, you know, is the only way I can explain it. We didn't talk, but we like communicated.
Yeah.
And she told me, hey, I'm the reason why all this shit's been going on. I'm driving your life down this certain path, you know, this is what's going to happen, things are going to be okay, just trust me, you know, because I'm very high strung, very stressful, anxiety, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she was just telling me, dude, chill, things are going to be okay. And I've never felt that feeling of calmness or peace, or just, you know, just what, I can't explain it. But she sat there and we had a dream and we talked, and that was it. And I haven't had a dream of her since. But I was like, okay.
That's crazy, dude.
Right?
I believe it, man. I believe we have guardian angels.
And I told my dad, and he goes, it was her.
Shit.
But yeah, man, it's interesting. I mean, things I can't explain, you know, and then dreams coming true, you know, things where conversations were exact conversations and words that are said, and then after it's done, I sit there and look, I'm like, dude.
Have you ever had a deja vu where you can predict what's going to happen after? I've been in a deja vu, especially when I was a kid. I had really weird things happen to me when I was a kid. Like, just like the way that my perception of the world was at certain times, and I can't explain it, but like it's only happened a few times in my adult life. But when I was a kid, I always would get this, I forgot what I was talking about before, but I'm going on to the next one. Just because I got a little, I kind of digress a little bit. But like, one thing that happened to me as a kid growing up was I perceived everything in fast forward. Right. And like, so I could literally, it was really weird. Like, things would just be faster. Like when people would talk to me, I would think this person's talking extremely fast right now, and I understand everything. I was so zoned in, like, and it was like almost like an influx of like, almost like Adderall for a kid. Like, all of a sudden everything was just sped up. Right. And then it would calm down. But I just remember always feeling uncomfortable like that. And it was all the way up until like at least high school. And it would really throw me off, just because all of a sudden, like, my world would kind of collapse and I would perceive everything in fast forward.
Yeah.
Going back to the deja vu, I used to also, during these times, I would be able to predict what was going to happen in a deja vu. I'd be like, somebody's going to walk through that door right now. And I'd be in a conversation with somebody, and then I would interrupt it because I knew what it was going to happen. And I'd usually be like, somebody's going to walk through that door right now. And all of a sudden, the door would open. And it happened maybe 2 or 3 times where I was able to, like, I just saw something and I was like, that's totally going to happen right now. How do I know this? And it happened. So I had really weird things like that go down, especially when I was probably like between the ages of like 10 and 14. Those were the years where I also saw a lot of fucking shadow people, dude. And my brother Bo and I saw the same shadow people.
Really?
Yeah. And he actually came into my room one night. He like knocked on my door, at like 2:00 in the morning. He's like, "Hey man, I'm kind of like scared. Can I sleep in your room tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, that's totally cool, man." He's like, "Yeah, somebody's waving at me." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I thought he was just like tired.
Are you saying shadow people or like spirits?
I think my description is not like his. Mine was literally a black figure.
Yeah.
And I had 2 experiences with it directly, face to face. And then I always felt like there was a portal in my basement, in my room. And around 2:00 in the morning, I would get really uncomfortable in my room. And it was only in one area. And it was kind of like, I always felt like it was a vortex. I'd like walk through it and I just feel weird. But the first experience that I had, because I would usually see something just walk by me every now and again in the hall.
Out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah, out of the corner of my eye all the time. And I never really thought anything of it. My dad actually was like, I told my dad, I thought I was crazy. I was like, "Dad, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I always see like a shadow, like just somebody walking downstairs." I was like, "Do you know what that is? Like, am I crazy?" He's like, "Oh, it's probably just shadow people." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
Yeah, it's
whatever.
all
Yeah,
Oh,
it's all
cool.
great.
Yeah, fine.
But my dad's kind of like he's like a hypnotherapist. He worked on the psychiatric ward for like years and years. You know, he's like very familiar with like these types of things,
How your
like
brain
paranormal.
can-
Like he's the guy who got me into like aliens and Bigfoot and everything. You know, he's the reason why I geek on this stuff. And I just remember it, and I'm sure it's probably because my younger brother Bo started seeing him earlier. But all right, so one night I wake up and it's like literally like maybe like 2:15 in the morning. And I remember feeling like something was watching me, and my room was backed up in the corner, and that vortex was kind of like kind of off to like the like one of the corners that's in the middle of my room.
Yeah.
So I'm sleeping on the side that's opened up to like, you know, the majority of the room. So at my feet would be the vortex, and I wake up and I'm looking around because I'm like, what? I feel like somebody's like called me, or like I woke up for some reason. And all of a sudden, I kind of gather myself, and I look in front of me, and there's this black figure, and it was huge, dude. It was like 7 feet tall, and it was just standing there, standing there, like staring at me. And I thought I was freaking out, dude, because I was freaking out. And so, like, I like threw the blanket over my head, and I think I was like 16 or 18 during this encounter, and I remember like saying a prayer and being like, "Oh my God, please, like, I hope this isn't real." And I pull it off and it's gone. And then like a couple months later, the same thing happened, but this time I was sleeping in the same spot on my bed because it was just like my spot. But it was sitting in the corner of my bed, like up against the corner. So like the only way it could have gotten on my bed was like right next to me or over me. So like I remember waking up, like something prompted me to wake up, and I just remember waking up and it was sitting there because I was laying like this. And it was sitting right in front of me, and it was like in a fetal position, just staring at me. So I freaked out again. You know, I did the same thing, man. And it was gone though, dude. I said a prayer both times, and it was gone. So who knows, man? I could have just been seeing some shit. It could have been shadows coming in.
Dude, I remember I spent the night over there a few times in that
But it's kind
basement,
of a weird vibe down there.
It is. I always get the heebie-jeebies.
And my brother was seeing shit way before. And my mom told me that he was seeing weird things, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And she told me, I was like, "Dude, I've been seeing that same stuff for like 2 or 3 years at that point, you know?" And I told her, and she was like, "Whoa, that's weird." But I think some people might be a little more sensitive, right? Well, especially at certain ages, you know? Like, because, I mean, nothing's manifested itself to me as an adult,
right?
You know, like ever. Well, I think the last time I was probably 17 or 18.
It's probably because you got like a lot of shit on your mind, dude. You know what I mean? Like that's why they say if you want to have certain gifts that you can actually
access them.
Yeah, like through meditation and stuff like that. You know, get to know yourself and become that antenna.
Tibetan monks have out in the Arctic, dude. They'll go up in the Himalayas, minus 60 degree wind chill, and they'll sit there and meditate and start producing steam and sweat. Just for meditation, they can manipulate their metabolism.
Yeah, you can do a lot of cool stuff when you start, like, you know, accessing shit like that. But as you get older, right, you know, things can get less unless you start training yourself again, or like allowing it to you're allowing yourself to be that antenna, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will be like me, for example, like there was a point to where I got to when I came back, right? And I was like, I don't want to put up with this shit anymore. So I just kind of like try living a normal life. And so I kind of like, you know, unless I walk into a home or something and I'm like, yo, I got to tell you what's going down in here. Like I got to.
You ever get that feeling you walk in a building and you're like, somebody's died here?
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a feeling
Couple times.
when you walk into a place and then all of a sudden you feel kind of dizzy.
Yes.
Or kind of like,
all
you know,
the
like,
time, dude.
like
yeah.
I'm so overwhelmed.
I've never understood that.
That's because
I've
of the
never had
energies that are inside that place are overwhelming.
I've walked into buildings and my whole thing flips.
Yeah, and they're trying to reach you because all of a sudden it's like this. Antenna.
You think
this
it's
guy
like,
knows. This guy
right.
knows.
Whoa.
And they go and they.
Do you think it's like a multi-dimensional thing where you're just in tune with certain vibrations?
Sure. I've thought about that too.
Yeah.
And it just fucks your natural vibration up because we all vibrate on a frequency, right?
Yeah.
Well, have you heard of star children?
Yeah.
So they're saying that these newer generations, including ours, you know, we're more intuitive. We have more insight. We have more just a sixth sense of things that are happening, you know, and people can't explain it.
Well,
And-
babies now can just pick up an iPad and they can just shuffle through it.
Yeah.
They know what they want, and they're like babies.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Yeah.
give that to a kid in the 1800s,
Yep.
you know, who's both of them would have never seen it before, and the other one, it's in their DNA already.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
like
ingrained
kind
in 'em.
of circling back on that, dude.
But let me tell you about this one cool story. It was like Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
And my baby's mom at the time, she has another daughter, and she spent the night. And she's supposed to be sleeping, and the TV's on and shit. You know, and kids fall asleep with the TV on. So I get up, and I'm like, fuck, you know, I'm gonna put the clothes from the washer to the dryer, and I see her run from the couch to the Christmas tree, and the Christmas tree goes right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like thinking, the fucking pine needle, she's gonna, like, you know, she's playing hide and seek and she's gonna scratch herself. So I just walk right next to the tree on the other side, and I'm like, Kara, what are you doing back there, you know? And I'm just like, you know, taking clothes from the washer, put it in the jar, turn it on, you know, whatever. And I walk out towards my bedroom again, and I'm like, Kara, you know, and I look at the Christmas tree, and I can see these eyes towards the bottom of the Christmas tree looking at me. And I was like thinking, how did she get so low like that? Like, the tree isn't, I mean, it's like maybe like this.
Yeah.
So she's like laying there, and I don't think there's enough room between the wall and where she's at for her eyes to be looking at me like that. And why are they like, I can see her eyes anyways. And I'm like, get out from the tree, like, here. And then all of a sudden she pops up from the fucking couch. She was on the couch this entire shot. She goes, what? Yo.
Oof.
Yeah,
And
that's intense,
all the
dude.
fucking hairs, dude, just like
Yeah.
grow, like, and then I kind of like slowly go
Could
like,
she see that?
nah.
And it was still there.
She was asleep. And so I moved to the
Oh.
right, and I'm like looking at the fucking tree, and all I see is just a dark void there, dude. And I turned on all the lights, dude.
Yup.
And then I looked, and it was impossible for anything to leave. It was almost like it went under the tree, and it looked at me and watched and observed,
Kinda
and then
like a
it went
cat or
into the
something?
floor.
Yeah.
And it just went into the floor, like
Just
into
disappeared.
fucking. Yeah.
Jesus,
At
dude.
that time was some bad shit, yo. I was smelling fucking wood burning in my house, like right in a certain area, and that was right where the tree was.
Whoa.
There's been all kinds of crazy shit there, but see, like, I can't raise my kids normally if I'm that antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I always have to be like, okay, I'm sensing something. Let's see what's on Netflix.
Yeah,
You know?
right. Distract yourself.
Yeah, see what's on Hulu. I'm about just shoot me
Yo.
on, you know, and
Dude.
fucking laugh or something. Because
Yeah.
I mean, when you're an antenna, that's fucking cool, and you can help whatever wants to communicate with you, but they don't leave you alone.
No.
And it's on 24/7. And if you are a fucking beacon,
Mhm.
dude, they're always everywhere. And how do you explain that to your family that, okay, I'm sorry that fucking plate went across the kitchen? Like, I
Out of
don't-
nowhere.
Yeah, and you're like, it's because of me, because
Yeah.
you know. And
The spirits are getting pissed. Or, listen to me.
Yeah.
They're tossing
Craziest shit
dishes.
I ever did. So you know that cemetery that's down on Warm Springs and Broadway?
Yeah.
That old one. It's like the oldest one in Boise. Has like governors, mayors, and shit buried in there, and
oh shit.
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. I went through there. So it was Friday the 13th
I saw
in 2013 on a blood moon.
All right.
And so
Damn.
I was like, shit's going down. It's tonight. It is.
Has
and
to
so
be tonight.
I went over there, dude, and it was a full moon, so you can see. Like, you could see shadows from the headstones, you know, everything. And I make it about halfway through, and right as I'm thinking to myself, you know, dude, this isn't so bad. You know, like, everything's fine. It's just like it would be during the day. You know, this shit ain't real. I hear, like, these. And I look, and it's like, it sounded like it was 5 feet away from me. There's no tall headstones. There's no bushes. There is nothing. And there's nothing there. And so I sit there and I look, and I was like, it was weird. So I was like, okay. And so I take 2 or 3 more steps, and it does it even closer. And I swear to God, I felt the wind. Like,
Yeah.
whew.
Whoa.
And I turned and I looked, because it sounded like he was like from me to right there away. And I was like, and I just threw up my hands. I was
Whoa.
like, guys, I was like, I don't know who you are. I was like, I am out. I wasn't going to destroy your headstones. I wasn't going to disrespect you all. I was like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gone. And I talked to him the whole way I left. When I got outside the graveyard, I just went home, and that was that. But dude, it was something else, man. I felt it. And I felt like when that second time he was like running at me, and I felt like it was a man, and ran at me and was like just
Like a
telling me,
bluff charge.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like leave me alone.
Like a
You're in my
gorilla.
area.
Whoa. Dude, I had a really interesting experience in the old veterans cemetery. It's back up in the foothills.
Yeah, where the Indian Wars and stuff.
Yeah. So we went up there one night, and I think it was Halloween night, like junior year in high school. And we were up there. Because it's kind of like a decent size up on the hill. So you kind of like walk up and you go in. And I just remember seeing behind a headstone this white orb just kind of came out and right at us and disappeared. And I was like, run. And we just started booking it down the hill. And I can't remember. I think it was Drew Miller. Do you remember him? Yeah. And he tripped and he ate shit, dude, and tore his pants open and like busted up his cheek. But yeah, dude, we all saw just a white orb, and it came out and it went right at us and disappeared, dude. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is. We don't have like lightning bugs here, dude.
Yeah,
so
right.
like, what else could it have been? We thought it was I thought it was a spirit, like a ghost.
Sure.
But I mean, if you think about it, it could have just been like an alien little thing.
Could've.
I don't know. Like a
Maybe
little
some
UFO
sort of
thing.
manifestation of energy.
Oh, you
Something.
know, speaking of manifestation. All right, so me and my 19-year-old Juntao, we was in my living room maybe 3 years ago, 2016. Hey. And we was chilling. My 14-year-old was on a tablet on the floor laying down, and I was on a couch laying down, and my son was chilling at the foot of the couch. And when he was talking to me and shit, the TV was on facing us. Nothing was on in the kitchen behind. And then fucking out of nowhere, it was like this flash in my living room. And it went, and it was like so bright that I could, everything turned gray kind of thing. Almost like looking in a flash, and then all of a sudden you look around and you're totally kind of blind. And I go to my son, did you see that? And he goes, you saw that too? I was like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I go, dude, it looked like a fucking flash, like on a
like
camera.
a flashbang or something.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, like right there. Like it right there. Like it wasn't like a, no.
It was in
wasn't-
like the corner of the room. It was just like a bright
like-
flash.
Yeah, in the middle of the living
shit.
room. It was like someone took a picture of us.
What if that's so? I've always liked to think about an alternative explanation for this. So, like when we die, let's say we leave the third dimension, go to the fourth dimension. What if you're flipping through your life and like taking snapshots of your favorite moments?
Or you're going back in time, maybe.
Right,
and
it's you that's making those flashes or things like that are making those noises and shit, and
Maybe.
you're reflecting on your life. There's
Maybe.
also a theory that we're doing that right now, that you're dying and you're reliving your life, and you're flashing back through it, and then you're
Yeah, and then you're done.
uh-huh.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that too. But we talked about like time travel, and we were like, what if our older selves went into the future and came back, or what if
Right.
our offsprings were able to come back into
And look
this
at
time,
us.
and then they took pictures.
Have you
of
ever
us?
seen Stephen Hawking's time experiment? So he made a time traveler's experiment. He buried this time capsule in cement and invited time travelers to his party. And so he had this
Oh,
party.
I did hear about this. Yes.
And he's just sitting there and nobody shows
Nobody
up, and he
showed up.
goes, well, I guess we didn't figure out time travel.
I do remember that.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
R.I.P. to that guy.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding.
He had some very interesting theories.
Mhm.
And he was definitely full of himself, but
Yeah.
he was smart. So
Yeah.
whatever.
No, I think all that. I think a lot of this shit. There's a lot more truth to a lot of this stuff than we give credit to. You know, a lot of people try to displace it. People displace things that they're scared of, or things that, you know, that they fear.
Yeah.
They block it out.
Mhm.
But then, like I said, like if we knew all the answers and shit, I mean, what good would
Yeah,
it
what
do?
fun would that be?
Yeah.
I mean, we go to
You
someone
know?
else. It's like me telling somebody, "Hey, dude, you know, I saw a fucking alien." I don't believe in aliens until they see
Right.
one. And
Yeah.
I don't believe in ghosts at all, because I believe when you die you go either to heaven or hell until they see one. And then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so even
Or
if
they
we
have their own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we would like to share this shit to people so that they know they're not alone, kind of. There's some shit going on. Well, I don't believe any of that. And it's
Mhm.
like, okay, so even if we knew, even if we got off this realm or this planet or whatever,
Mhm.
we're still gonna die,
Yeah.
and we're still gonna go through shit that we can't even tell anybody
Yeah.
about, and that sucks.
Transitional phase.
Through the veil.
Yeah.
It
'Cause
blows.
I don't think this is the end. I believe there is an afterlife,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't believe in the afterlife man have created through religion.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bunch of pearly gates and
It's not.
things like that. I don't think Saint Nicholas is sitting up there waiting
It's
for
not.
us.
I don't
You
think
know?
so either.
It's
Or Saint
me-
Peter, not Saint Nicholas. Santa Claus.
They're both the same,
Yeah,
right? They're
might
both
as well.
pretty made up
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point. Dude, I had one. I've got a couple points that I was
Yeah.
gonna bring up, but have you heard their argument recently about plants having like brain systems and like emotions and they
Yeah.
communicate?
Nervous systems and shit. Mhm.
Like when you
like Avatar.
like
yeah,
trees.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's an intertwined. Like we are just bacteria.
Kind of going back what
Yeah.
we were talking about in the beginning. I think the Earth's a living organism.
Yeah, me too.
I think mass extinctions. I think a lot of those, like the Ice Age or big
Sure.
earthquakes and things. I think that's the Earth's way of trying to cure itself,
Yeah,
because it knows that it's being destroyed.
true.
And if that was the case, then the sun is connected to the planet as well.
Absolutely.
I would say, and the sun knows when to turn it up, or some shit like that, because the solar system has to be a part of one entity, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You gotta know what's
it's
up.
all dependent on
Yeah.
on one or the other.
If
'Cause
a
one,
moon's, you know.
yeah. Think about if one of the planets drop, the gravitational pull into the sun, it's gonna collapse. Like
Mhm.
planets are just gonna be just bashing into each other and shit. It's
Yeah.
perfectly balanced.
If we're
dude.
on a planet,
If
we're
on it.
and
Yeah.
if there is a solar system,
yeah,
that's where like everything you learn is from school, and school
Right.
is from fucking
the government.
whoever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they could be all.
you know, they
lions
teach a
which ways.
different history now than what we learned even growing up.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Dude, pull out your kid's history book and check it out and see what they read and see
Yeah.
what they're teaching them.
Well, I remember Christopher Columbus supposedly found it back then,
Uh-huh.
and now I don't know. I hope it doesn't.
Dude, we
say
got to
that
change
shit.
that shit. We got to change Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving was a celebration of a massacre.
Massacre?
Correct. And Christmas was a pagan sex holiday, and Easter was a pagan sex holiday, and Halloween was the trick or treat, was you left out candy so the demon spirits wouldn't possess you, and so that was
Yeah.
your trick or treat. You know, and all these things that we celebrate that are just it's not the real. It's not
Even
real,
nursery
man.
rhymes, man. Ring around the rosy.
Oh, I know,
it's
right?
all about the Black Plague.
Yeah, and it's like
And
fun.
burning your
Think about
fucking
Santa
bed.
Claus. How fucking weird is it that some guy breaks into your house, eats your cookies and shit, and keeps track of your ass all year long and knows what you did good and what you did bad, and you're gonna get a present based off of that. Thanks, stalker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a scary story that
Yeah.
didn't
Mhm.
actually
Didn't really
stick.
turn out too well.
They're like, oh, this guy's jolly though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and we can make money on
Yeah.
And
this
he's hella
shit.
white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Kids in Africa, hey, yo, Santa Claus gonna come today.
Yeah.
So
Like,
did
no,
he
nigga.
know there's Africa?
Yeah. No, they all have their own
Yeah.
Santa Clauses though
No.
too though.
Shit.
No. Yeah. No, that shit's it's interesting to me. When you get down to it, man, it's a
conditioning.
lot of shit that we celebrate. Like if you look at the Roman Empire, like everything we do is identical to the last like 100 years of the downfall of the Roman Empire. Mass amount of holidays. We can't go day. You could Google it right now, and there's a holiday
Every
for
day
every
you
day.
celebrate
Something.
something's National Something Day.
Something.
It's always on the radio.
Think of a day. Is there a day throughout the year that there is not a sporting event going on?
Right.
You know, and that's what the Caesars used to distract the populace from the downfall of Rome. They had gladiatorial games every day.
Yeah.
And so it's just same song, different verse, man. It's just and the peasants and kings thing, I think that's all still in effect. I think the top 1% are your elite, your serfs, you know, your things like that. And we're the peasants that just make this thing work.
Yeah. It's just a different economy.
Yep, just different titles.
We're not farming.
Yep, different labels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
And why are we kind of going back to what Sumerian said? Why do we always have an innate want to be told what to do?
Mm-hmm.
Most 98% of people want to work for somebody and be told what to do.
Yeah.
That's
Why?
true. That's true. Very subservient.
Correct. Why is
Yeah.
it innate in us to be subservient?
Yeah. It is genetic.
You know, and what's our obsession with gold?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why there's outside of, you know, the value we put on it for jewelry, there's no real value to it unless you believe in monoatomic gold, which supposedly is the gas form of gold that can repair ozone holes in the atmosphere.
Maybe that's what it's for.
Maybe.
Or gold for electronics.
Right, it's an ultimate conductor.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And they say the Ark of the Covenant was supposedly made of monoatomic gold, and they think it was a nuclear device.
Yeah, because everybody who came in contact with it
Dies of radiation.
died of radiation.
And those priests in Ethiopia, the real Jewish priests in Ethiopia, they have a priest that guards that some bitch all year. They die within 10 years of being put on station to guard it, of radiation-like symptoms.
No, they know where it's at, though?
Dude, it's in this temple in Ethiopia. These people, well, they won't let anybody in, but they've claimed to be in this temple, and the priests die within 10 or 15 years of radiation poisoning.
Wow.
So whether or not they got something that's radioactive in there.
Yeah. They need.
I've
to
heard
fucking
about
get
that,
rid of
though. I've heard that, like, they thought that they had located it down there in Africa. Yeah.
Yep, it's in Ethiopia where the real Jews are, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they're good people down there, good society.
That's so crazy.
Isn't that
dude.
interesting?
Yeah, man, you totally opened up my whole like point of view when it comes to just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, especially like religion, and I didn't know you knew so much about religious text and shit.
Dude, I spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I can tell.
Mhm.
Yeah, you kill it.
No, and it's funny, the one I appeal to most is probably Buddhism. You
Yeah.
know, if I were to pick a
Same here.
religion, I like Buddhism, and I really like what the Native Americans were all about. They were all about worshiping the earth and giving back as much as you take from it. All we do now is take. Take.
When I came back from my near-death experience, and I did research trying to figure out what did I experience, what did I
Mhm.
see, how can I
Yeah.
understand this. The Buddhism seemed more what Buddha experienced is what I experienced.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, wow, you know, like that kind of appeals to me a bit more than anything. But I don't practice any religion because
Mhm.
it's just I know what I saw. And
Spirituality is
You know.
important, not your religious attendance at Sunday school and how much you give in tithing, you know, every
Yeah.
week.
Exactly.
And that's what it's turned into. And the Catholic Church started that. You pay your money for your sins, you know, for communion. You pay enough money, your sins will be forgiven. And that's another huge problem I have with religion. You know, let's take, you know, a child predator. So you mean to tell me I'm a decent person, I live a good life, I haven't hurt anybody, I contribute to my community, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to die and go to heaven. And then this son of a bitch that sat there and preyed on children is going to ask for forgiveness and be exalted and be saved, and he's going to go to the same heaven that I'm going to?
yeah, dude. I agree with you.
You know
on
what I'm
that.
saying?
Yeah, it's fucked, man.
No, it doesn't make sense to me.
That's where, like, yeah, you know, people just mold their religion to work for them.
Right.
Like, I have family members who are gay and
Yeah.
lesbian, but they mold the religion, and they'll still post, thank God for today, and I believe in the Lord Jesus, thank you, Lord Jesus. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do you know the story in the fucking thing there? It says you cannot be gay, you're going to go to hell, or lesbian, and you're going to hell.
Yep.
But they remold it to say, oh yeah, he's my savior, and and it's like, people are just jumping the bandwagon just to say they're fucking part of something.
To feel like they belong.
Yeah,
they have
it's an acceptance thing.
And then the church, they're not going to turn a gay way now.
Oh, that's more income.
Oh, come on. Yeah,
it's funny. The Mormon church just said marijuana is okay. They got a calling. How fucking convenient.
Dude, they found a way to sell CBD. That's what they found.
They're like, oh, we can make massive amounts of profit on this shit.
Yeah.
Let's pray about it.
That's why they lobbied so hard against it for a while, is because they're invested deep with the pharmaceutical industry.
If the Mormons are going for it, Idaho should start coming through.
One of our senators is a big investor in hemp over in Oregon, and he votes every single year against it.
Because he makes way more money there than he would here.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard of that too.
Yep.
I've heard of that too.
Dang. That's ridiculous.
But the CBD is cool. I try CBD, and it fucking works
CBD's
fantastically.
But no, man, man-made religion doesn't work for me. I don't buy it. I don't.
There's so many.
I mean, you look at the evangelicals that go downtown and hold sign that says God hates fags and stuff like that, and so you're supposed to be a representation of God.
Yeah.
And this is your way of trying to convince me to follow your beliefs.
Spread hate.
Yeah. The most judged I've ever been is growing up and going to church at my church.
Me too.
My minister was awesome. He was a great minister, but the people there, they have this complex about them to where they feel like they always have to tell you how to live your life and things you're doing wrong and things you need
Brother,
to do better.
bro.
Right.
It's Big Brother, man.
Yep.
That's how I felt when I was in church.
The Book of Eli explains it very well. It's why they wanted that Bible so bad. And who is it? What's her name? Milla looks at him and goes, "Why do you want the book so bad or whatever?" And he just smiles and goes, "Control."
Yeah.
And I was like, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all it is, man.
Yeah.
It's control.
And yet it doesn't, even a badass movie like that, nothing happens.
No,
people are still...
it doesn't click.
But I know a lot of people are starting to open their minds.
Yep.
Like I've had a cousin who's strict Catholic, know, but I started telling him shit, like, the similarities between Christianity and Egyptian mythology, and it's like, do you actually think this happened? Do you actually no, and so now he's kind of like thinking, fuck, like he's starting to open up and be like, dude, like
tell him about the image of Jesus we look at as Caesar Bologna's or whatever's kid, who was
he was painted, depicted.
We don't
as
know what Jesus looks like,
right? And
no,
and on top of that, there's no real factual evidence written by any of the historians.
There's none of the apostles met Jesus.
Yeah, really?
They were told stories about him.
Oh, no way.
Nobody that has written Bible or a written Bible account met him or walked with him. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John weren't there.
Well, I think it's all a pagan kind of shit anyways.
It is. Yeah. It's all, and if you look at it, there's 5 of them. They can trace Christianity. Moses took it from the Egyptians. Horus and Jesus are identical. Right. Horus was born of a virgin, was born on December 25th, had 12 apostles, did all these miracles of healings, blah, blah, blah. The Greeks had another guy, same thing. Somebody... in India,
it's like a lot of cultures, dude.
Yeah,
they have
a sun god.
They have a child, or like they have a savior who comes and they're sacrificed and they die.
And if you look at the stars and everything in the sun, so December 25th is the end of the equinox, right? The winter equinox. So on that third day, for those 3 periods, the sun is at its lowest point throughout its orbit. If we're going with the orbit theory, So it's at its lowest point in the horizon, and on the third day when the sun rose, it's 1 degree higher on the horizon. So that all ties into when you're supposed to harvest or start planting and all that sort of stuff. So when the sun comes back up, it symbolizes life, because now we can plant food and we can grow our crops and we're gonna eat. Yeah,
it's all astrological.
And like the 3 wise men are the Orion's belt, and all that stuff, man. Dude, there's explanations for the entire Jesus story.
Yeah.
The entire one.
Dude.
What if Jesus' miracles were him performing CPR? What if he just knew a little first aid and was bringing people back from the dead because he knew, how to restart somebody's heart?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, you can go. It's like this. If you can come up with so many different
Well, he's an alien, first
scenarios.
of all.
Yeah.
He's a
what
hybrid.
if he was a hybrid? What if he was an alien?
And he had that knowledge.
Yeah. Or what if
That's
he
what I'm
was
saying.
from the future?
If he was in
and he
constant,
just went to the past and
Right.
he practiced medicines
Correct.
and shit. Like,
just
Wow.
basic
So many
basic
fucking-
knowledge they didn't have back then for sanitation or just basic first
if
aid.
they had
and
spacecrafts back then. It's documented in fucking Egypt brick
and the Book
walls
of
and shit.
Enoch.
Yeah, Enoch talks about how
Yeah.
he gets taken up.
Right. So
in that thing with
how-
lion heads and
Yeah.
the wings and everything
what
like
if,
that.
What if the Jesus figure was real, but
Uh-huh.
he was from the future?
Yeah,
And what if? Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you guys have you guys looked into like time warps where like people will be flying their plane and they'll like I
yeah.
listened to one
Mhm.
guy's story. He was flying his plane as he was making a route or doing a route, and he noticed that it was like an old grown in airport,
Mhm.
like military airport from back in the day. It was an old base that was just grown in and old, not used anymore. And then he talks about when he flies back later, I think that same day, he flies over it and it was completely full of planes from like the 40s, and he was like, he was like checking his instruments, like,
Yeah.
where am I at? And he talks about this experience about how he flew over, and it was like all in the 40s, like different colors, like things that he didn't recognize. Like he was totally confused. And then he came out of like this cloud, got super bright, flew out of like through this cloud and cleared it, and it was totally normal again.
Yeah.
Like he didn't see anything behind him.
That's I think that it's either a time warp or parallel universe, parallel timelines. Crossing into.
I think it's time warp too.
Mhm.
I kind of lean towards that. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Just like he just entered a vortex or
Right.
like a
Yeah.
like
Right.
an interdimensional thing, and it
'Cause
was like, fuck, we fucked up. Sucked
in
him
theory,
back out.
they all exist at the same time. Because that's how
yeah.
Because that's how I view kind of like my memories, if that makes sense. Like I can flash back to when I was a kid, like Optimus or elementary school, and like that memory feels to me like as if it happened yesterday. It still feels so alive, like in my brain, and to me, like what if it was still accessible, And what if you could still, if there was a way to go back and maybe manipulate it or somehow, and if you could do that with the past and recall the past, why can't we recall the future if it's already happened? Now you're starting to get into some quantum shit.
Yeah,
and supposedly the future, past, and present all exist at the same time. Mhm.
Which is like that Interstellar movie.
So why can we access the past in our brains but not the future? Why is there that block?
Whoa, that's crazy, man.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've never really thought about that.
Yeah.
I wonder
What
if it's
if-
meditation, man. You
It
can
could be.
reach the Akashic
Yeah.
record through meditation.
Yeah. What if-
Akashic record.
I think Akashic. Is,
Yeah.
Time warp. I think black holes are some type of warp. I don't think it's a blown up star. I think they're wormholes. I think it's for traveling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. I think so
I
too.
thought about that too. I was
Mhm.
like, if we do live inside of an entity, like a body,
Mhm.
and there's a black hole, I think it's just like an artery. It's
I
like
was-
a,
Yeah,
Yeah,
fast like a highway.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you
Mhm.
can go inside it and
Just
then be
shoots
somewhere else.
spits you out on the
Right.
other side.
Right. Correct.
And it's.
Yeah.
Do you think there are alternate universes, or do you think it spits you out into like another?
I think it's plausible. So you've heard of Schrodinger's cat, right? So Schrodinger's cat is.
I've heard of this.
So he put a cat in a box, right? And so he would put the same amount of cyanide in this box, and exactly 50% of the time it would kill him, or exactly 50% of the time they would live. And so in his experiment, and he explains this in layman terms, so you can understand it better, but as he's explaining this, he goes, so I've distributed the cyanide. He goes, I have to accept both realities right now, that cat is both alive and dead. And he goes, so therefore, two realities are existing until I open that box and make it definitive. And he goes, so I have to accept the fact that both the cat is alive and dead until I open that box. And when I open the box is when it's decided. So therefore, he proved two realities existed at once.
Yeah.
Right? And so The theory of parallel universes is that there's an unlimited or an infinite amount of parallel universes, and every possible situation to ever happen in your life happens in one of those universes or one of those timelines. And that's why they think ghosts happen. That's why they think intuition happens sometimes, or deja vu is what if you're getting a cross signal from a different you that's in a different timeline. You know, something like that, like on Avengers Endgame when they had that Nebula went in the past and she started projecting out the thing, and Thanos looks and he goes, I won. And he goes, good. And he makes his preps and it goes on, you know, because their timelines got crossed and he could see something from the future.
Oh, damn.
Because she was part computer.
That's crazy. I haven't seen that movie, but that sounds intense.
But like, and that's where the past life things can come in. I don't know if you believe in past lives or, or things like that, or you know, and it's all just theory, but it's really interesting and it's plausible. You know, it would explain a lot of the supernatural things that happen to us, or things we can't explain with like dreams and stuff like that.
Yeah,
totally. Whoa.
Yeah. Or the thought that we are here on this plane, because we did something bad.
Correct.
And,
I've heard that. I mean?
Kind of like Earth is a prison.
Yeah, we're punished because we're too violent of a species.
Yeah, something.
So they're kind of locking us away.
Until we can figure it out, or we'll kill ourselves.
Yeah. And that's kind of crazy too, because then it's like you're never gonna die. You're just trapped in here,
right?
And you know, again and live again and then live again. And then I was thinking, well, if the dome is for real, what if the dome is keeping us from actually dying, and that's keeping us because our soul goes out, come back into another living being or species, and then and then maybe that's why people.
And then we start
the dome.
We start all over again, right? Have you seen like objects, like out of time objects?
And isn't that interesting?
Yeah, the wheel that was found like 2 miles under the fucking surface in a coal mine. There was like a wheel inside of, and they were like, it would take 300 million years for this coal to grow around a wheel. Like what? Or the hammer, or the dinosaur feet that are next to the human feet,
or the Swiss watch they found in China.
Yeah.
That stopped at like 10:20 something a.m. and it's got Swiss on it. They found computer chips embedded in granite.
Yeah.
That have been what's the word? Not fossilized. Petrified.
Yeah.
Some weird shit.
Dude, yeah, you never looked into that?
No, but I did see a documentary where there's this huge steer skull, like in Russia, and it has a perfect bullet hole in its skull, and it's like 2,000 years old or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, there's no way a perfect hole in the fucking skull. And that's what got me into time traveling and started looking into the military research and such. And like a lot of ancient civilization they sculpted a fucking people who look like pilots.
Yeah.
And one has like a fucking
They're always
holster.
carrying something.
Yeah, and they got the big ass goggles right here. And I'm like, dude, that looks like one of those pilots that disappeared in the fucking Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
So then I was like thinking, wait a minute, if that motherfucker, if they disappeared and they were shot out in different parts of the world, that would make perfect sense. And somebody saw this big ass animal charging them or something.
Yeah.
And they only have one bullet.
Yeah, right.
So that means that gun is like, you know, one of those. It's not on a fucking.
So you think they were shot out at like a different time in history?
Yeah. Exactly.
Whoa.
Have you ever seen the evidence of time travelers?
No.
So there's like all these pictures on the internet, you know.
Oh,
like
I've seen a couple of them.
There's one guy looking at Kennedy, and it looks like he has a cell phone that he's talking into, and just a whole bunch of things that are just out of place. Like some of these women had clothing that wasn't invented until like the 2000s, you know, and just things that you're sitting there and you're like, what the hell?
And that's so. I know I saw
the
that
lady
stuff
on
too.
set who looks like she has a cell phone.
Yeah.
But from like the 1920s.
But then it's like, you know, we can do a lot of manipulation with stuff nowadays.
Yeah, it's true.
But I don't know. And so that's where I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to believe the photos and shit and the videos.
I know.
And stuff.
Right.
Photos and videos are tough, man.
They are.
You know, just because
But testimony is dope. Do you guys want to wrap this up? It's been about 2.5 hours.
I mean, it's up to you, man.
Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
He's got kids
I gotta
at home.
I gotta bounce.
He's got kids. It's
and shit,
been.
we can always do this again.
Yeah, let's do it
We're
again.
done, we're done.
I
Because
got.
we're just scratching the surface, dude.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna be a regular, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
We'll
once
get
every other
you told
week
me
or
about
every week.
turtle too. We'll get down here and we'll nerd out.
Yeah, dude, totally. Oh yeah,
yeah.
man. All right, everybody. Yo, you got any shout outs, Anthony?
Oh man, dude, I've never done these shout out things.
Or do you want anybody to follow you anywhere? Do you have any pages?
No, man, I don't do that. I don't really do that too much, man. I'm not really an Instagrammer or Facebooker. You could follow my girlfriend's clothing line.
What's her clothing line? Give her a
It's
shout out.
beautyandbeastapparel.com, and she does workout gear and stuff, dude.
Cool.
It's legit, dude. She
Really
takes all my
cool.
Nike shirts and copies their formulas for their clothing stuff and buys it from China. But no, man, it's awesome.
Tight.
But yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Everybody follow Beauty and Beast. And then Izzy.
Yeah.
Everybody can find you at Exo Chizzy.
Oh yeah,
So
Shizzy HD on Facebook or Israel Salinas on Facebook.
Yeah, hell, I don't even know my URLs for my Facebook or Instagram or nothing like that.
I know just my two.
Yeah.
But all right,
No,
everybody.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. Thanks
Yeah.
for coming over. This is one of many, dude.
Yeah,
Because
we're getting started.
yeah, we're just warming up here.
Mhm.
But all right, everybody. Make sure you subscribe. Give us 5 stars. Pass the episode along, and have a wonderful rest of your day.